effort by Lagos State to support the country's rice revolution. It is expected to contribute towards eliminating importation and smuggling of imported parboiled rice as the country arcs towards self-sufficiency in rice production. President Muhammadu Buhari has officially commissioned the first phase of the 13 kilometers Lagos Rail Mass Transit Train, also known as Blue Line Rail in Lagos. The president also commissioned the John Randall Center for Yoruba Culture and History. Day 2 and the final day of the state visit saw President Muhammadu Buhari commissioning yet another 2 iconic projects in Lagos: the John Randall Center for Yoruba Culture and History and the much-talked-about Blue Line Rail of the Lagos Rail Mass Transit Initiative. The president also witnessed the signing of the commencement of Phase 2 of the project from Mile 2 to Okuko-Maiko. The rail project, according to Governor Sanwo-Olu, is to restate the state government's commitment to bring the entire stretch of the Blue Line to completion.
With your government, we have received tremendous support, especially on the Lagos-Badagry Express Route, which is the main corridor for this rail project. This made it clear, including on constitutional holding of funds, at critical times for Lagos State. But we have moved on, and Lagos is continuing the rising, and we're beginning to see big, bold developments happening under your watch. Thankfully, those dark days are behind us. The completion of this blue line here, the first rail system by a subnational in Africa with a sea crossing. Mr. President, you will cross sea with this rail track. It's a testament that indeed the dark days of oppression are behind us as a government. And what you'll be commissioning today is the first phase between Marina here to Okuko-Maiko, and we will sign, the Phase 2 in another few minutes from now.
The governor pointed out that the benefit of the Blue Line will reduce travel time and improve the quality of life of citizens.
This Phase 1, like Mr. Deputy Governor said, has 5 stations. From here in Marina, it goes to National Theatre, Igomun Station, Alaba Station, Orile Station, and Mile 2 Station. They're expected to cover just less than 15 minutes as compared to a journey time that hitherto will take about an hour and a half to 2 hours. The benefits, Mr. President, are obvious. It will reduce travel time, it will improve the quality of life of our citizens, and it will make Lagos one of the most resilient mega cities, not only in Africa, but it will compete with other mega cities in the world.
The unveiling of the Blue Line Rail was greeted with so much excitement by residents of Lagos. They maintained that the benefits of the rail station are unquantifiable.
It's an historical day that this is happening while I'm alive too, because this is a project that's been on that so many governors have tried to do, they couldn't. But His Excellency Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu came in and dedicated his time for this project, and he succeeded. It's really amazing, that this is happening now, in his first term. I say it. He's a man of his word, and it shows you that APC government is working. We are really working. So many things that the APC government has promised, they fulfill it. Mr. President has commissioned so many projects for the APC in the recent days.
If you look at our population of over 20 million people, and then the downfall that we are using cannot solve our problem, and it's affecting us economically, because transportation drives the economy. So if you're able to get people to their destination, that means it's going to impact positively on the economy of the state, and this is exactly what we have been able to do. And if you now look at it again, that Lagos happens to be the commercial nerve center of Nigeria. So invariably, what we have done today is not only going to affect Lagos, it's going to affect Nigeria in entirety. So I want to really thank the Lord for the governor and for the people of Lagos State And this is one of the legs, the blue line, and then the red line is coming soon. So you can see Mr. Governor is working, Lamata is working, and I really want to thank the present MD too, taking all the baton and then she's doing a good job. So very soon, this year again, you will see the commissioning of the red line. And of course, we still have other lines too. We have green line, we have orange line, we have purple lines.
This particular project is a special one that has to do with electricity. And for who we are in this part of the world, we take things for granted, levity everything. And she has been doing the sensitization that, we just have to know that it is not business as usual. So, and that's a good thing. And with what we saw on ground today at the commissioning ground, the pride, everything about this excellent job that has been put on ground, you could read it on everybody's face. So, and good thing about this project is that it actually brings succor to the most needed parts of the state. You can see from this place to Mile 2. And when you say Mile 2, it's something that brings, fair.
Chaotic arena.
I say, I want to go to Mile 2. You'll be like, hey, Mile 2, when are you going to get that? But, with this blue rail line, you don't have to bother about that. You just come to Marina, pick your tickets, go. Before you get there. And when the first trip went, I was like, I could have been part. But now I'm part of the second trip that is going now. I'll be able to enjoy that ride. I'll be able to tell people what it is. So it's a good thing. And I tell you, that's why I made sure that I'm part of this today, because Ejida Abimbola Akintoye is a prize to every one of us. We know the stuff that she's being made of. And this is this is just to confirm what female engineers, what they can do, especially female professionals. And we thank Mr. Governor for this platform that he has given to women. In fact, in his cabinet, you could see that there are many women there, and they'll be doing excellently good.
With what has happened today, we just want to thank Mr. Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu for giving us, with Nigerian professionals, especially the women, to showcase our competence. You can see that the MD of Lamata, she's a woman. She's an engineer, and you can see what we are doing here in the country. We just want to appreciate him, want to tell him that we love it, and when you empower a woman, you're actually empowering a nation. With this that she has done, she has been a role model now too. A lot of female engineers are there, and Nigerian professionals. That shows that Nigerian professionals, whatever they put their minds to do, they will surely do it. And this is the result of it. Mr. Governor, Mr. Sanwo-Olu, we thank you. Thank you for giving us this opportunity.
The iconic Marina Station, said to be the largest train hub in Africa, is 240 meters long, equipped with 2 concourses of 12 tonsils each. It also has a processing capacity of 480 passengers per minute and over 24,000 per hour. There are high hopes that with the commissioning of the first phase of the Blue Line Rail will bring a great deal of relief to the worsening daily traffic situation experienced by Lagosians. The John Randall Center for Yoruba Culture and History has been inaugurated by President Muhammadu Buhari. The museum, built by the Lagos State government, is aimed at promoting cultural renaissance. The museum is sited in Unikon, an artistic neighborhood steeped in the rich history of Lagos. The John Randall Center stands out as the first cultural center of its kind in Lagos. The event saw dignitaries from all shades of life, including students, in attendance. Built in 1928, the John Randall Center used to serve as a hub for cultural tourism, recreation, and entertainment. The reconstruction started in 2018. Sanwo-Olu said the center fits into the state's overall objectives in arts, culture, and tourism, as stipulated in the recently launched 20-year Arts and Tourism Master Plan towards making Lagos a tourism destination. Like in other places, President Buhari didn't utter a word. The center has an exhibition gallery which chronicles the history of Yoruba cultural evolution and journey from the race's origins through present day to the future.
Totally surprised and shocked and pleasantly shocked. I mean, I grew up here, I was in King's College, I used to come here to swim, I used to play cricket across the road, tennis next door. So to see this place evolve into such a spectacular museum that is comparable to any museum anywhere in the world. I mean, you go to Paris, you go to London, there are museums there that are well thought out, well curated. This place can stand against any of those museums. And it's not just the museums with pictures and artifacts. It's actually an engaging museum. You can read, you can interact. There are things that will engage with you. I mean, one needs to really come here and spend a lot of time. Bring your children here because it's important. The next generation don't know what happened 20, 30, 40, or even 100 years ago. And walking through here, you get these snapshots of time through history. I mean, I remember some of this time, but when I talk to my kids, they have no idea what I'm talking about. I see some magazines and things that we used to buy. You know, if I show that to them, you know, they're funny, but this is what life used to be like. I saw the old television, the old gramophone. It's just amazing, and I really have to congratulate Mr. Babajide Sanwo-Olu and of course his predecessors who started the whole process. Today we have the pleasure of bringing Mr. President to come and commission this Yoruba Cultural Heritage Museum right in the center of Lagos, and it's not something that we went to build on some strange land. It's actually where it all happened. You know, this was a place and it has historical importance. So I'm just so happy. I'm so excited. I really want to just spend hours here, you know, and come back.
Uzamat Akimbile Yusuf is the State's Commissioner for Tourism, Arts and Culture. She said apart from this center being a museum, it will stimulate the local economy by bringing tourists from within and outside the country.
Mr. Governor, Mr. Babajide Sanwo-Olu has been a fantastic leader. He has been assisting, he has been working from the front. He has been so, concerning this project, he has added so much. Several occasions, we have to travel for international trip to ensure that this place is well equipped. And what you are seeing today is not just an accident, then it is something that is so deliberate. Putting up all these artifacts here, just to speak, to understand what Yoruba is all about. You know, we have a beautiful culture, we are so endowed, and all this thing is going to extinction. And bringing up this building is just to take the people back to the memory lane, who we are and where we need to be. Because when you don't understand your past, it will be difficult to know where you are going as a person. So it's going to be a research center to understand and learn more about the Yoruba culture and history. So it's not just an ordinary museum that we all used to see or we used to know. This is a special one, specially created to see the beauty of the Yoruba culture and Yoruba roots.
It is indeed a center that creates avenue for younger generations to have first in-depth knowledge about the culture that is nearly going into extinction. That's all we have for you on this episode of the Greater Lagos Vision on Plus TV Africa. I'm Lovikuku Oyedoku. Bye for now.
businesses in Africa can be very challenging. In Nigeria, it is particularly intimidating, and successful builders have learned how to navigate a hostile environment to unlock opportunities. But one major challenge businesses face is how to filter through the noise and identify where their ideal customers exist. Get insight and practical steps from industry players and captains of industries. Hear success stories to help you make informed decisions as you scale your business in Nigeria. Watch Business Insights at this time on Plus TV Africa.
What we do not understand, we will stigmatize.
What you can see is the remaining of the tanker that exploded.
The suspect equally confessed.
A 500 naira they collect them.
If you no talk, then go beat you.
Now 2,500 they pay.
Obey ECOWAS judgments and end prosecutions for cyber stalking, Serap tells Buhari. And in the aftermath of the 2023 elections, tonight we discuss divisive politics and reconciliations among warring parties. This is Plus Politics. My name is Nyamgul Agaji. The Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project, SERAP, has urged President Muhammadu Buhari to use his good offices and leadership position to immediately enforce the judgment by the ECOWAS Court of Justice prohibiting prosecutions of anyone on the grounds of insulting or stalking public officials online. SERAP also urged him to enforce and implement the ECOWAS court judgment compelling the government to respect, protect, and promote freedom of expression, access to information, and media freedom. In a letter dated 1st of April 2023 and signed by SERAP Deputy Director Kolawole Oluwadare, the organization expressed serious concerns about the shrinking civic space in the country as some state governors and government institutions are reportedly using Section 24 of the Cybercrime Act and other repressive laws to crack down on anyone seeking to assert their human rights and media freedom. We're being joined live to discuss this by Kolawole Oluwadare himself, Deputy Director, SERAP. Good evening and welcome to the program, Kolawole.
Good evening. I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Let us begin with what this almighty Section 24 is. Give us an insight as to what it portends, what it says, what the implications of this Section 24 are to the human rights and freedom of speech and everything that we're talking about today?
Thank you. The act or the law, it's an act, but it's called broadly a law. It's an act of the National Assembly of Nigeria. Is the Cyber Crimes Act, and it has various sections. But within the context of this discussion and the ambit of its use by Nigerian authorities, Section 24 stands out as a notorious section that had been used by the government to prosecute various classes of Nigerians, particularly journalists or people who are perceived as being critical of government or public officers, or those who have access to recovery of power. And Section 24 of the Cyber Crimes Act is basically talks about cyber stalking, and it creates some very vague offenses, even in the wordings of the section, which led SERAP to go to court in 2019, that is the ECOWAS court, challenging the provisions of Section 24 vis-a-vis the provisions of the African Charter, which naturally grants every Nigeria being a member of ECOWAS freedom of expression. And in this instance, freedom of expression, as also constitutionally guaranteed in our constitution, is a two-pronged right. It allows us to have conversations like this, that is to express yourself and to receive information. And we know how this is important to democracy and to what we are as human beings, as Nigerians. And so Section 24 has been used to charge people to court for various offenses, for whatever I said, even WhatsApp messages, postings on social media, and the likes. And that is why we've gone to court. And the ECOWAS court ruled that Section 24 of the Cyber Crimes Act is incompatible with the rights granted by Article 9 of the African Charter, which has been ratified by Nigeria as a member of the ECOWAS. And also, in the 2020, we've gone to court to challenge the unlawful ban of Twitter. And the same ECOWAS court spoke clearly without mincing words, that Nigerian government should take steps to ensure that the freedom of expression of Nigerians are guaranteed. And not particularly Yangon. The first judgment clearly gave an order to the Nigerian government to repeal Section 24 of the Cyber Crimes Act. So naturally, what the government of Nigeria should do through the Attorney General of the Federation is to place legislation before the National Assembly to amend the Cyber Crimes Act by repealing Section 24 of that Act. And we've seen the various ways that have been misused, if you ask me. And that is why we've undertaken this advocacy to ensure that that unlawful use of a law that has been declared unlawful by the courts is stopped.
Okay, when you talk about repealing Section 24, is it in its entirety, or there are just aspects of that section that are not agreeable to SERAP and whatever we can describe as human rights?
No, it is the entirety of Section 24, and that is why when you see the way Section 24 of the Cyber Crimes Act is worded enough, it is subjective view. It creates offenses that says that if the person who receives a message, if he or she considers it obscene. And so, Yambo, I put it to you. If I send you a message, which is a conversation between both of us, and you consider such message to be obscene, and it's just a conversation between two of us, that would actually give you a right to make a complaint to the law enforcement agencies to charge me for cyber stalking under Section 24. And we all know that law, as a tool of social engineering, progresses. It catches up, it sets the pace, as it were, for society and the norms that govern being humans. It sets the trend for us to follow. And in this instance, with the advent of social media and the various tools of communication, as technology has brought our way, Section 24 is not only a danger to freedom of expression, it is a danger to democracy in the way it has been used and the way it is couched. And most importantly, a very good aspect of Section 21, for instance, or that's subsection 1, is that it prescribes a penalty of 7 million naira and not more than 3 years imprisonment for people who are found culpable under this act. You would agree with me that that is too heavy a sentence for such a law that can be used as a win, particularly in the hands of law enforcement agencies in Nigeria, who we've seen time and again who have a penchant for abusing their powers.
Okay, well, when we're talking about the fact that someone can just interpret it the way they like it, because like one of my lecturers used to say, meanings are in people, not in words. So you say something and somebody decides to interpret it in another way. But the question is, whose standards or which standards or what standards are we going to use to define what is supposed to be something that can put you in trouble, for instance, or something that you will say is not supposed to be said? It's cyberbullying, cybercrime, cyber whatever you want to call it. What standards are we going to use to define these things so that we know? Because there is a very thin line between this freedom of speech and what we cannot call freedom of speech, where somebody just says whatever they like because of the anonymity which social media, for instance, provides. The proximity or the remoteness that the social media provides, because what you will say to my face, what you might not say to my face, you will say it because I'm not there and all that. So how do we define, at least, because there needs to still be some kind of sanity, no matter what, how do we define standards with which we can use to judge whether something is worthy enough for someone to prosecute you for?
Thank you very much, and that's a very interesting perspective, which is some of the arguments that we have made before the courts in our various advocacy initiatives to government in respect of Section 24 and the freedom of expression. And I think we need to preface this conversation by understanding, firstly, the nature of the act itself and what Section 24 protects, which is why we argue that the section itself and the wording of the section and the use, which are two different things, they are very subjective. So Section 24 provides, for instance, that if a message, if anyone sends a message, I'm paraphrasing now, sends a message to another by means of a computer, a system, or a network that is grossly offensive, pornographic, indecent, or obscene or menacing in character, and it causes to be sent, it becomes a crime. And then you ask, like you have asked, whose view will be considered by the court or even by the law enforcement agencies in charging someone to order this section, whether a message is obscene, is menacing, or not? And within the context of this conversation, human rights are not absolute. And the law, for instance, the Constitution in providing for freedom of expression in Section 39 has also provided limits. And this limit has also provided legal remedies when there is a breach, which of course leads to anybody being made culpable for defamation, as it were, or libel, depending on the nature of such statement or the done. But that does not mean that such actions should be criminalized. At best, there are civil remedies for such actions, and we've seen people take this option to go to court over the years, and there's a lot of jurisprudence on defamation, libel, and slander. Do we need to criminalize freedom of expression? No. And that is why the government must act in line with the objectives of the African Charter and the various treaties and conventions that Nigeria ratified, including the 1999 Constitution. The actions of government should promote human rights in this context, freedom of expression, not to stifle it, which is why we believe, and the court agrees with us, the court has agreed with us, the ECOWAS court, that Section 24 must be repealed to conform so that it can be in line with Article 9 of the African Charter, Section 39 of the Constitution, and various conventions and treaties that Nigeria has ratified to ensure that the freedom of expression of Nigerians are guaranteed and not unnecessarily stifled. So, in this context, what we've seen is the wordings, the subjective wordings of Section 24 and the misuse of Section 24. Those two reasons is why the court agreed with Sarah and gave that judgment, which is yet to be enforced by the
Okay, but when you're talking for the people, because the people are the ones that always get prosecuted as it is. We see radio and TV stations being clamped down on because they express themselves. We also see, for instance, there's a journalist, Agba Jalingo, that has just been released today after so many days in custody because he wrote something and asked a question, and someone who is related to the governor of his state felt insulted and he was taken to prison. And this is not the first time and all that. There are so many other instances that abound. But when we argue for the people, what are we also arguing for, let's say, politicians who are being slandered, is subjective anyway, who are being taken to the cleaners, as it were? What part of your argument is also protecting them?
I mentioned earlier that the law has envisaged that limit of human rights where individuals can be free of the rights of others. And that is why the law has made provision in civil law for defamation, which will libel us if it's written in permanent form, and it will become slander if it's uttered in temporary form. And that is why it is a civil law. It need not be made a crime. And that is what Section 24 of the cybercrime has done, which is why we have seen its misuse over and over. It is a civil law, and there are remedies for defamation. You could get damages, you get reparations. There are a lot of remedies, and people have got to court on this instance. So the question is, why should freedom of expression and the breach of it, if other rights of people are breached, why should it be criminalized? It's a civil law, and the civil remedies. Why should it be criminalized? And that is what has lent itself to this misuse that we've seen. So for people who have their rights infringed, or who are defamed or slandered, as it were, there's a remedy for them in law, and they should take that up.
I don't seem to understand, because if you're being arrested for defamation, and you call it defamation, it sounds as if it is all right because the laws are already there. But if you are arrested because you use the other term, that is cyberbullying or cyber stalking, it seems to be something that you should not be arrested for or something. Make it make sense to me how someone can, there could be a libel, there could be a scandal, and then you can be arrested because the laws are there for them. And you're saying they should not criminalize the same thing that you are being arrested for if you call it a different name. I just don't seem to understand. I'm not arguing differently.
Let me explain.
Yes, please.
Basically, there is civil law and there is criminal law among the various divisions of law. A civil law will be the rights and obligations of individuals either amongst themselves or between organizations or even institutions of government or among arms of government, as the case may be. And in that case, a civil wrong will be, for instance, breach of contract, and defamation is a civil wrong, as it were. So if, as we're having this conversation, I call you a name that you do not like, you will go to court against me and ask for damages or whatever reparations you want. That is a civil wrong. That is not a crime. But Section 24 makes it a crime, which means it is a crime against the state, which is why law enforcement agencies would have to come in to arrest you. So ideally, nobody should be arrested for defamation because it's a civil wrong. You can't go to court. But when it becomes a crime, in this instance, Section 24, it means that it is the state prosecuting you on behalf of another, which is why I'm making that case that it need not be criminalized. There are remedies in civil law that can be explored, and that is being explored.
Okay, I get the argument right now. But to be fair, it is not really a Nigerian thing, you know that. It's not even an ECOWAS thing, because we have instances, for instance, in France, where a 50-year-old woman is facing trial. She was being arrested for publicly, what they say, insulting President Macron. We also had in September 2021, where something like that happened, and a 62-year-old person was arrested as well. So why is it such a big issue here in Nigeria and ECOWAS that you needed to go to court when it seems as if it is happening everywhere else? Or is it that everywhere it is happening, it should be condemned in the same way?
I'm not aware of these instances that you mentioned, and I'm sure there are contextual facts that will possibly place them in a different realm entirely. But be that as it may, social media and the digital age brings along a new trend of its own, which means that rights are accrued to us naturally in the real world, sometimes has been translated to the virtual space. That itself has brought up a lot of issues, and it's a global thing, and that the limits and the extent of these rights are being tested for digital rights, data rights, and all that. But that does not remove the essence of the fundamental rights as it is enshrined in various laws of countries. And in this context, in the Constitution and the African Charter and various treaties and conventions that Nigeria has ratified, which is why the misuse of these laws in a democracy is bad, not only for us as citizens, but also for democracy. If you can get into trouble and be charged for a crime for a statement that has been made, which in itself is not obscene, is not insulting, but because the recipient feels, and that is very important for us to understand it, the recipient feels insulted, then he activates criminal procedures against you. This sets a very difficult trend for democracy, particularly in Nigeria, where we have been known to have little tolerance, particularly those in public offices who have little tolerance for criticism of any kind.
But I'm trying to draw the line between a right and a nuisance and all that. And leaving that aside, do you think the laws that were enacted before the craze of social media and every other thing that has given people the opportunity to talk the way they talk and get into trouble in some instances, do you think the laws can also speak to the situation we find ourselves now? For instance, what was not insulting 10 years ago could be a very big insult now, but it's not covered by the law. So do you think we should start by tweaking a little bit about the law, or touching the law a little bit, or we should just start by saying we stop everything concerning trying to get people to pay for careless statements that they make? Do you think our laws can still stand?
That will not make for meaningful conversations, which, as you know, is very important to democratic practice. People have the right to exchange ideas. And it's very interesting that politicians, when they want to get the votes of people, use every available platform, including social media, to canvass for votes, including speaking against their opponents. And it is fine at that time until they gain political power. And then all of a sudden, the same tool and instrument they used to fully express themselves to the citizens becomes a tool that gets other people into trouble. And that is why we need to understand the concept of freedom of expression as a right. Its manifestations in various contexts, that is the use and the law, as it were. So to answer your question, yes, laws as tools of social engineering sometimes are slow to catch up reality, and sometimes, depending on the aspect of each country's jurisprudence, sometimes the law also sets a precedent that society follows subsequently as part of the social norms. So you have asked, do we have laws that are adequate for the issues, these digital issues? Yes. The laws are not perfect. Laws are not meant to be perfect, which is why they are amended. And in this instance, judicial pronouncements it is one of the ways of amending laws, because the court has held that Section 24 conflicts with Article 9 of the African Charter and should be repealed. And that means that Section 24, as it stands today, of the Cybercrimes Act, is null and void. It is not a law that should be used at all. The Nigerian government must obey that order of court. So, do we need to tweak the laws? Not necessarily so. What we need first and foremost within the context of our democracy is to have strong institutions that can apply the laws. I can tell you, Yango, that our laws are not perfect, but we have a much more bigger problem in the application of the laws by the various institutions tasked with this statutory duty. And that is what we need to fix first, even as we are in the process of amending the laws. And that is why you see the various manifestations of this misuse of these public institutions in one way or another. It's really becoming a matter of state capture. If we allow this to go on, it doesn't go well for democracy at all.
But this issue of strong institutions instead of strong people and all that is always a back and forth. It's a case of egg and chicken, which one came first and all that. What do you treat first and the others? An institution is governed by laws, and we have the laws. An institution is governed by rules, and we have the rules. But they still are not working. So what is that element that is missing that is making our institutions not to be strong enough? We have a constitution that people are clearly not following. The law enforcement agencies are flouting the laws themselves. The politicians are doing the same. Even the people themselves are doing the same, because no matter what you do, whether you're stealing from a government coffers or you're beating traffic because you think nobody's looking, a crime is a crime. So what is that ingredient that is lacking, that is making our institutions not to work the way they should work, and people are rather bigger than the institutions?
Thank you, Ndula. I will attempt to answer to define the cause of this malady. I would say it is the lack of political will from the highest office in Nigeria, from the president to that of the least. You have, as you've said, we have laws. The laws created institutions and created parameters for them to act, including providing for sanctions, whether for acts of omission and commission. So the question is, how far are those laws being implemented by these institutions? If you ask me, very weakly and very poorly. And that has led us to this point. And that again brings us back to the social contract theory. We all know that we have these rights, we have these powers as human beings, which is why they are called natural rights. But we've donated an aspect of this power to the state in this instance to enforce those rights on everyone, to protect everyone. So, but when the state becomes corrupt, when the state becomes inefficient, what you've seen is exactly what we are seeing presently as a country is what that leads to, which is why we need strong institutions that are not stronger than the law. We need strong institutions that obey the law. And institutions, of course, are not made up of robots. They are made up of people. The structures are made up of people, which is why we need every political officer, including the president, obeying the laws. But in a country such as Nigeria, where we see institutions of government, state governors, and individuals, public institutions disobeying orders of court, what do you expect? That is against the ingredient of the rule of law. It's against the core tenets of democracy, and nobody gets punished for it. We talk of corruption every now and then. We've seen individuals that have been found to be corrupt, they've been liable, and nobody gets punished for it. What do you expect? And so that is what has led us here. So rather than complain about the laws we have, which I agree with you is not perfect, we should talk about, and we put our money where our mouth is, to ensure that the institutions function. Again, the institutions are not stronger than the law. They must operate within the confines of the law. It means even the judiciary is not above the law. They interpret the law, they enforce the laws. It means even law enforcement agencies, including the police, they are not above the laws. They operate within the confines of the law. But what we've seen so far is the exact opposite. And that, unfortunately, has led us to where we are presently in nearly every facet of human endeavor in Nigeria. It's so sad, really.
It is sad. I must congratulate SERAP for a milestone judgment that they have, and we hope that things will work. But while we talk about not gagging the people, we would also like to balance it. If you were to advise, because it's always been a problem, on the one hand, we'll be talking about people making careless statements. On the other hand, we're talking about the need to let people express themselves and all that. But there has to be a balance. At one point, Twitter was banned from Nigeria because of a statement that was made against the president. Whether that was right or wrong, but it tells you that there is a need for all of us to know, to respect ourselves in one way or the other. So if we were to advise on the kind of things to be put in place so that there will be sanity in the social media space and also there will be freedom of expression from the people, what would you advise that should be done? As we wrap up now.
Unfortunately, I will have to go back to what I've said earlier. It means the institutions must work and operate within the confines of the law. We have laws already. The Constitution provides for rights, including freedom of expression, and also provides for the limits of those rights. And Section 6 of the Constitution is very clear. It gives the judiciary the powers to be the arbiter between providing rights and obligations and duties between individuals, between government agencies, and between government and the people. But the question is, if the courts give judgments and the government disobeys those judgments, what do you expect to have? So again, when you talk of social media and the need to govern that space, whatever that means, we have laws already. We have the fundamental human right that prescribes the limits of these laws. And we have defamation laws. We have all those in place. But how are they being enforced? Which is why you see criminal laws like Section 24 of the Cybercrime Act that can be used to hold people. They are being used more than any other law. And that is the sad, unfortunate thing that we've seen happen, which shouldn't be with democracy.
Kolawole, we are still with you, and would like to just wrap up with you very fast as fast as possible. I'd like to challenge SERAP and ask you what you're really doing to make sure that you educate the people more about their rights and responsibilities, cultivate the habit of patriotism and every other thing that we need. Because at the end of the day, it is not the institutions that are not having the requisite things that should make them work. The laws are there, the rules are there, and everything. The buildings are there, even though that is not what we should describe as the institutions when we're talking about it. But What are you doing? What is your plan to make sure the citizens come up to speed and even help in the fight that SERAP has been fighting all along to make our country, our climate, everything saner, as everybody likes to say, saner climate and all that. Nigeria should move from where it is to another place, a higher pedestal. So what is your plan to make sure the citizens are up to speed with what you've been doing, the fight you've been fighting, and to stand up to their responsibility? Very briefly, please.
Thank you. Public enlightenment is also a critical part of their advocacy initiatives, which is why this kind of letter to the government is what we call a two-pronged advocacy. It informs the government and calls on them to fulfill statutory obligations, and also reminds the people of the rights and the duties and the obligations that they have. Even this conversation that we're having presently also fulfills that very important obligation. It is enlightening people, it is educating them and calling on people to obey the laws. So that is what we do as part of our initiative. And I really felt that now when your freedom of expression was briefly taken away, you understand how it feels when freedom of expression is stifled in any way.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Kolawole Oluwadare, for coming to enlighten us on what is happening. And everybody that needs to collaborate will collaborate with you. Keep doing the good job and make sure you do more to enlighten us as well so that we can help you in that fight. Thank you so much for being a part of our program today.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we've been talking with Kolawole Oluwadare, a Deputy Director of SERAP, and we'll take a short break, and when we return, we'll be talking to another guest. Stay with us.
What we do not understand, we will stigmatize.
What you can see is the remaining of the tanker that exploded.
The suspect equally confessed.
Na 500 naira they collect am.
If you no talk, then go beat you.
Na 2,500 they pay.
Okay, this is Plus Politics, in case you're just joining us, and my name is Nyamgul Agaji. The elections have come and gone. A lot of people may be aggrieved, but now we should be talking more about the healing process of our community, of our society, and what do we do about that? Why do the things that even happen in Nigeria happen? We're glad today we're being joined by a political scientist who is going to help us x-ray some of the things that need to be addressed by the incoming administration come May 29. And it's my pleasure to welcome today Mr. Fred Noho, a political scientist. Welcome to the program, sir.
Thank you very much.
Okay, this moment, you know, we've had this election, a lot of people are grieved, a lot of people are saying it didn't go the way it should go, even though some people may not be complaining that they lost, the people that they supported lost. They're talking about transparency that was not there, so many issues. But now, a major issue that we should be addressing is how we can heal as a country. Let us just get to know, in your opinion, some of the things that we need to start putting in place, even before the inauguration, so that we can move on as a country.
Okay, thank you very much. You know, as a society, as Nigerians who are not new to things like this, it's been like part of us since 1960. We've had series of, you know, issues that has bedeviled our society, our politics up to this moment. Yes, I would have thought that by now we would have, you know, outgrown some of these ills, you know, that affect our society in terms of politics and all of that. But here we are. Well, what's done is done, but again, we must move on. And then, because, you know, society must continue to grow, whichever way you look at it. So some of the things we need to do to heal the wound is, you know, to actually try to talk to the people, the Nigerian society, the common man who do not see as much as the big man out there sees. Because the problem, the reason why we have issues in society is that there's gap in understanding. Once there's gap and those gaps are not being filled, people tend to feel in certain ways, and that leads to, you know, conflicts of issues, and further leads to, you know, what we can call violent confrontation. So first and foremost, we've conducted election. We've seen winners. Those people who has won must see themselves as magnanimous, you know, winners, and they should also be able to talk to the Nigerian society, talk to the Nigerian people, make them feel that, okay, I understand that we have issues, and that the election that has brought us this far is not totally free of, you know, certain ills. So that you need to actually assure the Nigerian society that there is need to tackle certain things in the society that those who have won, will, at the end of the day, attend to those things that seems to divide us more than unite us.
Okay, using Delta as a case study, because you're from Delta, would like to know the political climate in there. Some people before the election were complaining a lot about the governor, who eventually was the running mate to the PDP presidential candidate, Okowa. And they were saying a lot of things about how he could have done better and all that. So in your opinion, if he failed to satisfy the people, I'm not saying he did, but if he failed to satisfy the people, or if the people saw that he failed to satisfy them, even though he did his best, what do you think were some of the things that were missing that he could have done better, that whoever is taking over from him should do? Because everybody would just be thinking someone who is contesting as a vice presidential candidate in an election, you will even win like 100% in your state. It didn't happen that way in Delta State. So which means some people still felt that he didn't deserve it. So what are some of the things that he could have done that the next person would do or should do?
Okay. Delta State is more like a micro Nigeria because it has, the last time I checked, about 5 or 6 different, you know, nationalities in there. You have the Ijaws, you have the Isokos, the Yorubas, the Chekiris, the Ndokwa, who are also in their own rights fragmented into different people, you know, because the Ndokwa people are part of the Igbo people, but if you ask the Ndokwa person, it tells you he's not an Igbo person. So we have different people in that place. To be fair to the government of Okowa, he has, in certain ways, done well, because if you compare his administration to the one before himself, you will see a little bit of, you know, improvement in what he has done. But I like to say that it's not important for, it's not really possible for any government to try to satisfy everyone in any society. It's impossible, no matter how good you are. And so to that extent, well, some people will feel that he hasn't done much. But most times, when we respond to issues of politics in Nigeria, we tend to respond based on our political affiliation. So you tend to see that a man in Party A will always not speak well of Party B, even if they are doing the right thing. But you also find that the man in Party B will always speak good about Party B, even if they are not doing the right thing. And so most times our response is colored by where our interest lies in politics. Oborevwori is there today. He has been elected, the incoming governor. I wish him well in whatever it is he's going to do. But I also would like to suggest to him that part of the things that the present administration did that a lot of people didn't get to know about or didn't feel good about is that the reason is mostly because civil servants try all the time, always try to hijack those things. For example, this government did something about, they did a lot of empowerment to young people, But if you ask yourself, who are the beneficiaries of those empowerments? They are usually younger ones to civil servants, politicians. My brother must be there, my sister must be there. And you find that at the end of those empowerment, those who got starter packs end up selling those things right there. So if I trained you on how to, for example, on computer, for example, and I gave you a laptop, and if you ordered a printer to kickstart your business, and right there you sell it, then the idea, the reason for the training is actually lost. Because it means that whatever monies that have been invested in you, you are not going to plow back into the society. The idea of why governments give, train people and say, okay, I'll give you a startup, should be able to encourage, cottage industries, small businesses, that at the end of the day will end up employing one more person. Because if you have two people that are earning something from a particular business, those two people end up, affecting other people, which is the shame at the end of the day. My advice to Oborevwori is that if he has to do anything, he has to find a way to ensure that whatever he does are not being hijacked by, one, politicians, secondly, the civil service people, who are almost all the time, influence who become a beneficiary at the end of the day.
Okay, let's move to the national scene as it is. A lot of times people do so many things. Corruption that we're talking about, sometimes we point at only politicians and we leave the ordinary man, the civil servant and all that out of it. But we know that corruption is in every sphere, especially in this Nigeria. I don't know about other climes. I'm talking about the country, I know. But what we fail to address is not the corruption itself, but the reason some people behave the way they behave. Why would a permanent secretary steal? Why would a cleaner or a messenger not find a file in an office? Why do these things happen? What do you think that the next administration, the national I'm talking about now, should do to make sure that we begin systematically to fight this corruption?
Well, Nigeria is a society that has bred more of powerful men than powerful institutions. What works for America is not a powerful man. It is an institution, a system that, you cannot avoid but key into. We have, corporations in Nigerian society, SPDC, Chevron, and all of that. The man that works in Chevron or Shell, and the man that works in our civil service or the minister, there's no difference. They are the same Nigerians. But why the man in Chevron The fire comes to his table, he pushes it on. He pushes immediately. He does his part and moves it to the next person. The man in the civil service just keeps the fire there because there's even nothing to show that the fire got to his table in the first place. So nothing tracks it because it is manual. Whereas in SPDC, it's automated. You don't push, hard fires. You push soft fires. So that when we begin to locate where is that fire, a click tells you that this fire is on that table. And in fact, it has been on that table for the past 48 hours. So if you know that there's a fire on your table that you need to deal with, and that if you fail to deal with it in the next 48 hours, you're going to get a query, you want to deal with it immediately. But that doesn't happen in our civil society, civil service. Because at the end of the day, we always want to get something before we push the fire. So the problem with our government is actually system. Because the system has not encouraged the man to do what he should do. Year in, year out, you find budgets, national budgets, with billions voted for computers. But go to these offices. Do they really use the computers? Why is it that I, who is not a member of the civil service, cannot in my own house type something and query that particular office and I get a response? Why should I have to leave my house to go to that office to do things? So these are some of the things that are bedeviling our society.
But when you say someone has to ask for something before they can do a thing, are they not paid salaries? And when you retire, you don't get your pensions and all that.
That is another thing. For example, currently, what is the take-home of the lowest earner in the civil service? 30,000 naira. In some cases, less. How much is a bag of rice? It's about 40,000. So the man cannot even afford to buy a bag of rice in the first place. The man cannot even afford to live in a house in the first place. He has to rely on that salary. So that is why we say the corruption in Nigeria is systematic. It's a systemic stuff. It's a systemic process, because the system that treats you, the reward system, does not treat you in such a way that you cannot live above certain things, above certain threshold. It keeps you down perpetually. The highest salary earner in the civil service may not earn up to 200,000. I doubt it very much. But if you earn 200,000 naira in today's economy, and you have 2 kids in the house plus you and your wife, that's 4 of you. You need a bag of rice in the house for 30 days. You need to buy gari. You need to clothe the children. You need to pay their school fees. You need to pay school rent.
You need to transport yourself to and fro. Even if you have a car, you have to fuel it.
You have to fuel it. So how does 200,000 naira take you home? In the first place, it's going to be difficult. Yet we have people who earn 30,000. We have people who are in director cadre, earning not more than 100,000. So the system has, in certain ways, built in those people psychologically that for them to get by and get by reasonably, they must be able to look for ways to augment whatever that comes to them at the end of the month. And where else will they get that from? But from their customers. And who are their customers? Me and you.
I like the way you put it, customers. We all have become customers. It's a matter of survival as it is, no matter what. So which means if we're looking at corruption, we can't just be looking at the people who are doing it, but we'll be looking at the reason behind their doing it. A psychological thing. That's a very strong way to get addicted to something, as it were. But how can we start this consciousness, this national consciousness, this awareness, to speak to the people how to do better? What medium can we use to do that?
Actually, in Nigeria, as it is today, actually preps you to become very poor. And so you spend 30 years of your time, or 35 years, or 60 years at 60, whichever is the case, to work for your government, and by the time you retire poorer than you were when you started your career. In addition to that, your severance benefit may not even get to you until you die. In fact, you may die in the process of asking for that particular thing.
Yeah, right now, I just lost a sister who retired like 4 years ago, and she didn't have her benefit, and she's gone.
So why should that be? And so some people in the civil service have come to think about it. Okay, so here we are, we have governors who's been governors in their respective states, and they only have to be there for at maximum 8 years. And when they leave with hands-on perks. Just 8 years with hands-on perks. But I've spent my entire life here trying to make the system work. I leave, the governor does not even think about me when he's leaving. He does not think that I need to get my retirement benefit the minute I leave the system. So I keep coming back to remind him every day.
I think this is the time we need to start, first of all, building that conscience in the Nigerian person. I remember very well when we were growing up, after the Civil War, we were having movies, cinemas that were coming, those ones that use white clothes, you know, and projectors and all that, to show us the effects of wars, so that everybody, whether you witness the war or not, if you watch those movies, it will tell you that a war is not something you must think about at all.
Yes.
So there is that propaganda that is positive enough. I think we should start telling our stories and talking to ourselves using the arts and everything that we have at our disposal. Our music is like one of the greatest in the world. Our movies are also only next to Hollywood and all that. Why not we use these avenues to begin to tell our stories and talk to ourselves as well? Fred has done his part. I'm hoping that you too will do your part. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me here.
And with that brief discussion with Fred Noko, political scientist and author, we wrap it up on the show today. We thank you so much for being there. Stand up to your responsibility and be the Nigerian that you are supposed to be. Let's build our country together. My name is Nyamgul Agaji. On behalf of the entire team, saying thanks for being there and have a wonderful night.
Businesses in Africa can be very challenging. In Nigeria, it is particularly intimidating, and successful builders have learned how to navigate a hostile environment to unlock opportunities. But one major challenge businesses face is how to filter through the noise and identify where their ideal customers exist. Get insight and practical steps from industry players and captains of industries. Hear success stories to help you make informed decisions as you scale your business in Nigeria. Watch Business Insights at this time on Plus TV Africa.
When I heard him, I didn't know he was a sickler until last year. Though at birth, from birth till like age 2, he was always getting sick, always leg pain, my hand and everything. We did a genotype test, then they told us it was AA. So we didn't even think it was sickle cell anemia. So once the clocked 2, he stopped having crisis. So we continued like that until last year. It was a mistake. So it was during the exam, he now started serious, couldn't breathe properly again. Though naturally, he's always been on no matter what he eats, he doesn't add weight. But for him, I knew from birth that he was a sickler.
Some of my own experience are the hand pain. The hand pain, I've never experienced the hand pain. I only experienced it once after all the pains were gone. But the chest thing was the first I started experiencing.
When there is a deformity in this oxygen carrying capacity of the blood, that is there is a deformity in the red blood cells. This oxygen capacity, carrying capacity, it becomes abnormal. It can no longer move. Now, what we call sickling, that word sickle cell comes from sickling of the red blood cells. The red blood cell is a concave, and when it is now sickled, it's cut, it's sickled. Like a sickle. That means the capacity, the ability to carry oxygen is reduced.
There are a lot of challenges, but I will go with, growing up having sickle cell is one of the most difficult things ever. And I believe also that surviving sickle cell is dependent on how the world has been treated.
Living with it in your school days, you have to know how to survive. Sometimes you miss classes, you miss exams because you're having a crisis. Sometimes you have to, the relationship between your family and friends becomes, there's this strain, especially if you don't have a patient family, that really understand what sickle cell is.
I was exposed to a lot of medications, a lot of treatments, a lot of prayer houses, a lot of deliverance sessions. So, being a child, you have no option. You just have to go with whatever your parents say.
Whenever any person has had sickle cell and there is manifestation, then what we can do is to now treat or prevent them from having crisis. So there is one thing to have sickle cell, another thing is to have crisis from the sickle cell. This crisis is derived oxygen to the blood cells.
Malaria is something that actually brings my own crisis and blood infection, the usual typhoid that they call. If it starts with my limbs, I know malaria is around the corner. But if it starts with my vertebral column, I know that this could be blood infection.
What makes me know that, okay, probably I'm going into crisis is that I start feeling a bit tired, a bit weak. Then I start feeling these pinches, on my body. I started having crisis even before we knew it was sickle cell. So I've been living with I'm 35 now. So let me say for 35 years.
There are times I don't go to work for like a month, sometimes 2 months, as long as the crisis lasts. But thank God for the kind of people I work with. They tend to understand with me. It's financially burdensome. Your work, if you don't have good people working with you, it affects that too. And some people, there are some instances where you lose a job.
I wouldn't say it has been easy for with the siblings and him as well. Most times when we are on break and we get to witness him during the crisis, it is always heartbreaking and a tough one to see, to be honest.
There are many complementary remedies. So many people have tried different things. But we know, scientists, that the major cure for sickle cell is red cell transplant, bone marrow transplant. Who then transplant the progenitor cells, and transplant it so that they will now start producing the new cells, the newborn cells that carries oxygen better than the adult red blood cells. So that's the major achievement. The other complementary measures are just palliative. People have tried. Well, for scientifically, we have also used hydroxyurea, one of these medications.
And the stigma starts from home sometimes, right? That's from the family. And of course, they will think you're different. And this brings about conflicts between, sometimes they even say it's a woman's fault, right, for bringing forth a child with sickle cell. So there's this conflict between a household.
The stigma is still there. Now, what did you do now? Why didn't you do blood tests before at the point you're telling somebody this is what's going on? It's not as if you've not actually blamed yourself for what happened enough, but they're still telling you should have known better.
Someone has told me that if you die, you are not the only child. Okay, I don't know if you get the message that was being passed, like you cry so much every time all about you every time you're always sick and all that kind. I didn't cause this for myself.
The first time that I told them that I was a sickle cell, but they didn't believe me until my mommy told them that I was actually a sickle cell. That's when they now believed me. They apologized for laughing, then they now started treating me nicely.
I've been in a relationship where the parent told the person I was going out with that they don't live longer. There's no hope in getting married to this person, and they wouldn't want their child to go into a short marriage.
Some of it are, let's start with our cultural and religious beliefs that this is not a genetic problem. They don't see it as a medical problem. They see it as spiritual in Africa. So these are the kind of things we want people to know, that this is a medical condition and can be managed. When you give birth to a child and the child is always falling sick, high fever, always crying and all that, automatically people will think that, okay, the child is possessed. Some people believe that it is contagious. Before all the medical interventions, children die before the age of 5, not because it's spiritual, but because there's lack of hospital care and proper drugs. But with hospital care and proper drugs now coming into play, there's a bit of improvement and warriors can live to 90 years.
So the parents need to be educated that if their genotype does not match for use at least AS or AA, they should not go ahead and marry.
I am still blessed. There's a lot of pain associated with it, but I'm still thankful. You know what I'm saying? I'm still grateful. I mean, regardless of everything, I still have someone who was able to kind of, damn the consequences and say, okay, yo, forget about what other girls have said. I'm going to marry you, regardless of what they've said. I'm going to take a risk on you. And she did. And I got married, and I have 2 kids.
For me, it has helped me to build a lot of positivity. Because I've been surrounded by so many negativity, I just had to develop it. But then, you can be stronger than anything that is thrown at you by life. If you choose to be strong. If you let situation, you don't have to be a victim all the time.
For children with sickle cell, your life is still ahead of you. You can be anything in life. There is no limit to how far you can get to.
Good afternoon. My name is Nyamgul Agaji. This is the news update. The Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, has warned Peter Obi, presidential candidate of the Labour Party, against inciting violence over the outcome of the presidential election. Mohammed spoke in Washington, D.C. during his official engagements with some international media organizations on the just concluded 2023 polls. The minister accused Obi of inciting people to violence while seeking redress in court over the outcome of the election. In a recent interview, Dati Baba Ahmed, vice presidential candidate of the LP, had said Bola Tinubu did not meet the constitutional requirements to become Nigeria's president. The House of Representatives has condemned calls for an interim government in Nigeria after May 29. The lawmakers feared that such calls are capable of truncating the country's young democracy and causing anarchy across the country. This followed a motion of urgent national importance raised by a member, Unyime Dem, drawing attention to the Green Chamber to the statement issued by the Department of State Services DSS warning of plots to install an interim government after the outcome of the presidential election. The House urged the security agencies to be on alert and warned aggrieved parties to await outcome of litigations before the court. One lawmaker, Ademorin Kuye, accused former President Olusegun Obasanjo of culpability for calling for cancellation of the results of the presidential election. In the meantime, bandits abducted no fewer than 10 students of Government Secondary School, a day secondary school in Kachia local government area of Kaduna State on Monday. Kaduna State Commissioner for Ministry of Internal Security and Home Affairs, Samuel Aruwan, confirmed this in a statement on Tuesday. The commissioner said the state government received a preliminary report from security agencies regarding the kidnap of the students. According to the reports, Aruwan said the exact location of the incident is yet to be ascertained. He said detailed reports were being awaited to clarify whether the incident occurred within the school premises or elsewhere. The Ooni of Ife, Oba Eniton Adeyeye Ogunwusi, says traditional rulers need to be assigned constitutional roles in the security and governance architecture of the country, failure of which the country won't effectively tackle emerging and contemporary security challenges confronting the country. The Ooni spoke at the 2023 exercise Husky Hill lecture organized by the Armed Forces Command and Staff College, Jaji, Kaduna State. Delivering the lecture with the theme, Combating Internal Security Challenges Through Effective Utilization of Traditional Institutions, the guest speaker, the Ooni, stressed that the failure of the security agencies and the government to assign specific constitutional roles to traditional rulers was largely responsible for the lingering insecurity in the country. Zuba Magistrates Court in Abuja has remanded in prison one Mr. Obianjulu Uja, the middle-aged man who said the president-elect Bola Tinubu would never be sworn in as president on May 29th. Uja, who was arraigned before the court, had in a viral video on an aircraft made the sensitive comments. He was forcefully evacuated from the aircraft. According to the court papers, Uja was charged with public nuisance, resistance to a lawful arrest, threatening violence and conduct likely to cause a breach of peace. The court would on April 6 hear his bail application. Members of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, in Rivers State continue their protest in Port Harcourt, the state capital, at the office of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, over the inspection of materials used in the last general elections. Today's protest was joined by more state assembly members, including leaders of the House, Martins Amaiwule, alongside the Deputy Speaker, Edison Ehie, and Chairman of Ikwere Local Government Area, Samuel Nwanosike. In addition to the demands for joint inspection of electoral demands, the issuance of certified true copies of result sheets, the PDP is demanding the arrest of All Progressives Congress APC governorship candidate Tonye Cole for alleged murder.
2019 recall, it was the same Tonye Cole that shed innocent blood in Abonima. We mourned our brothers and sisters. He's not tired. He has come again yesterday and has killed one of us. Must Tonye Cole always be known for killing? No. We go agree? No. That is why from here we are moving straight to the Commissioner of Police. We have registered our petition yesterday. Today, after INEC will sleep in the Commissioner Police office, Tonye Cole, who does not enjoy immunity, must be arrested and prosecuted. Yes. Not so. That's all. Will sleep in Moscow Road. Commissioner Police must arrest him today. Yes. Because we don't know what to tell the family of the dead PDP supporter. The wife and children are crying at the hospital. Why must we continue to fold our hands and allow criminals who stole our money because they are using tongues in arms? Nigerian police must rise on the occasion if they are impartial. We are ready to die for our rights. We are ready to die to defend our mandate. Enough is enough. Enough is
The Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) in Rivers State requested the cooperation of all political parties seeking the inspection of election materials used in the February 25 and March 18, 2023 polls, saying it will discharge its constitutional and lawful duties without preferences or bias. INEC Resident Electoral Commissioner (REC) in the state, Johnson Sinikiem, in a statement said about 50 applicants were received for inspection of election materials. For days now, members of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, and the All Progressives Congress, APC, have clashed at the INEC office in the state over the inspection of election materials. However, the INEC commissioner in the state said although the application of certified true copies of documents and access for inspection of election materials are the legitimate entitlement of candidates and parties to election petitions, these are, however, governed by processes and procedures which include payment of requisite fees, making copies, photocopies of relevant documents, and certified or certification by the authorized official of the Commission. Ada Obekwa, a U.S.-based medical doctor, and his company, Renaissance Network Africa, RNA, are suing the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, and the federal government over alleged failure to recognize them as the originators of the e-voting system used during elections. The suit was filed before the Abuja Federal High Court on March 21. In the suit, plaintiffs are praying the court for an order directing the defendants to pay 77 billion naira as compensation and another 500 million as damages for allegedly using their idea without giving credits. Obekwa said he flew to Nigeria to meet with Tahiru Jega, former INEC chairman, and they discussed his proposal. They also want the court to direct federal government to publicly recognize and acknowledge the plaintiff and their team who were involved in the preparation and design of the i-voting proposal to the first defendant since 2010. Several Nigerian youths converged on the headquarters of Nigeria's electoral body to show their support for the recently concluded elections. They say claims that the elections were marred with irregularities and false or are false and called for interim national government are treasonable. They also called on aggrieved participants in the polls to go to court to express their displeasure.
Around the country, inciting, calling for a taboo, which they call interim national government. That will never happen, not in Nigeria, not in any African country that we support. It is a taboo for anybody under any guise, alcohol or consumption, to rise up to call for interim government in this nation when we have INEC.
I want to thank you for the civil manner you have conducted yourselves. I want to assure you on behalf of the management of Independent National Electoral Commission that the message will be delivered to the chairman. And if we have need of getting back to you, we will do that in due course. INEC will do its utmost best to continue doing what the law asks it to do, and Nigeria will be better.
Now outside Africa, U.S. Secretary of State and NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg have congratulated Finnish Foreign Minister Pekka Haavisto as his country was officially welcomed in the North Atlantic Treaty. Finland and Sweden asked to join NATO last year in response to Russia's invasion of Ukraine, a process that requires the approval of all existing NATO members. Turkey is still holding off approving the membership bid of Finland's neighbor Sweden, which Ankara says has not gone far enough to cracking down on people Turkey considers terrorists. The three countries signed a pact on the issue last year.
I can actually then hand over to you, Minister Haavisto,
the formal invitation on behalf of all allies for the Republic of Finland to accede to the North Atlantic Treaty. So please. Thank you. And then at the same time, I can also invite you to deposit your documents of accession to the U.S. government, here represented by Secretary Blinken.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary General. Thank you, Secretary Blinken. Now when I've got this invitation, it's my great pleasure to deposit with the Secretary of State of the United States of America, Finland's instrument of accession to the North Atlantic Treaty. Please, Secretary Blinken.
Thank you very much. Well, with receipt of this instrument of accession, we can now declare that Finland is the 31st member of the North Atlantic Treaty. Congratulations.
In the meantime, TikTok has been fined £12.7 million by the UK's data watchdog for failing to protect the privacy of children. The video sharing site used the data of children under 13 without parental consent, according to an investigation by the Information Commissioner's Office, ICO. It estimated TikTok allowed up to 1.4 million UK children of this age to use the platform in 2020. TikTok said it had invested heavily to stop under 13 accessing the site. Despite TikTok's rules requiring children under 13 to have parental consent to use the platform, the ICO said many were able to set up accounts without this. In business news, Nigerian National Petroleum Company NNPC Limited spokesman Garba Din Mohammed, in a statement, says the company knew nothing about the payment of the sum of 20 billion naira to ghost consultants as alleged by an online platform. The NNPC Limited wishes to state that as a responsible corporate organization, it does not have or deal with ghost consultants. He informs that NNPC Limited process of engaging consultants whenever the need arises is clear and verifiable and follows global best practices. On the Ogun State government claiming a back duty tax liability of about 18 billion naira against the NNPC subsidiary, the Petroleum Products Marketing Company PPMC Limited, the company says, for clarity, PPMC had objected and challenged the claim through its tax consultant. Consequently, the Ogun State government took the matter to court, which is not unusual in business circles. We move now to entertainment, where Colombian singer Shakira has bade an emotional farewell to the Spanish city she had called home as she headed stateside with her two sons. Several sources close to the singer indicate that the decision was not out of the blue, as she wanted a change since a while ago, but stayed in Barcelona because of her family and children. Shakira took to her Instagram story with a picture of the plane's window and captioned the picture, "But things are not always as we dreamed them. Sometimes we run, but we never get there." She also said, "I established in Barcelona to give stability to my children, the same stability that we are looking for in another corner of the earth alongside friends, family, and the sea." The singer further appreciated everyone who encouraged her, inspired her, made her grow, and took away her tears during her stay in Barcelona. In sports news, Manchester United left-back Luke Shaw has signed a long-term contract extension at Old Trafford, the club announced today. The England international put pen to paper on a new 4-year deal that will see him stay at Old Trafford until June 2027. Shaw expressed his thrill to be extending his stay in a team he has grown immensely over the years. And that's the news update. For more stories, please follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and do subscribe to our YouTube channel at Plus TV Africa and Plus TV Africa Lifestyle. You can also view us from Limex on limex.tv and Glow TV apps anywhere in the world. My name is Nyamgul Agaji. Many thanks for watching.
For upcoming artists to blow in Nigeria.
Welcome to Plus Trending. I am Buki November, your host, saying thank you for joining us on today's episode.
Welcome back. It's tea time on Plus TV Africa.
Practice makes perfect. I'm not perfect yet, but I'm a lot better than I used to be.
He's a king. He's entitled to marry 100 if he wants to.
It is engagement we need to have.
Those who suffer miscarriages are never taken into account.
Members of the National Assembly are also influence peddlers.
You are sitting on Nigerians' money.
From the Babin, I pay my rent. From the Babin, I send my children to school.
A consultative engagement.
No any tangible notification before they ban us.
It's one thing for people to be at your back and the heat of the moment, and another thing for them to still be with you when push comes to shove.
Hello there. My name is Oluseyi Akinwale Fashwi. Orúkọ rere ó sàn ju wúrà lọ, meaning a good name is worth more than gold. That was the creed imparted in us when growing up. This forms the background to my good old days story. My late grandfather, an Ondo man from Okegbogi compound in Ondo State, was a revered Reverend Father of the Anglican Communion that traversed the whole of Western region back then. His sojourn in line of work brought him to Abeokuta, where he met and married my grandmother of the Deke family at Ikuruake, Abeokuta. This is the basis of my dual lineage of an Ondo man and Egba man. My late father, Prophet Olujimi Timothy Fashwi, resident in Ibadan, retired as a higher executive officer at the then Nigerian Cocoa Board, Cocoa House, while my late mother, a trader, Oluyemisi Fashwi, hails from Abeokuta. I was born at Lafia Hospital in Ibadan. I am the first of only 2 children, the other being a girl, now married. I grew up with my maternal uncle, late Mr. Adekunle Ladende Esquire, who was then an agricultural officer and later a divisional officer at Ugumosho during the Western region days. My uncle, an Egba man, was a strict disciplinarian. His wife, a midwife then, likewise trained us all on strict moral standards. I will share some of my learning experiences with them in the course of my story. I started my primary education at Bodija International School and completed it at St. Benedict's Private School, Ibara Abeokuta, where my uncle was transferred to Ogun State after creation of states in the 70s. Then to St. Leo's High School for Secondary, Ogun State Polytechnic for A-levels, and University of Ilorin, where I obtained B.A. Hans degree in performing arts. Growing up was memorable and indeed indelible. From early days at Old Bodija, Ibadan, where streets were paved, neat clean gutters and drainage systems, security guaranteed, even with low fence and no barbed wires. It was then considered uncultured to speak across fence to your neighbors. Notable places then were Palm Chemist, Keba Chemist, KS Motel, Cocoa House, Agodi Gardens and Zoo, Premier Hotels, Rotunda, and a host of others. In those days of strong values, our normal day usually will begin with bell ringing by Daddy, my uncle, for prayers. Songs from hymnal books, psalms from Bible were sung and recited off heart. Till date, I can still read Psalm 23, 121, 122, 103, 91, and some others from memory. Then, everyone had a car to do before school. Everyone was trained to write with Ami, the foundational phonemic notations of Yoruba language, which is Doremi, and speak in Yoruba language. Proverbs, idioms, witty sayings, storytellings. Alo, alo. Oruku tindi tindi tindi, oruku tindi tindi tindi, oruku bimo, gbogbo ọmọ ẹ̀ ló yàjẹ́ o, kí ni o? Pardon me as I won't be able to translate this in English language, but it suffices to say each story then ended with a lesson in moral and conduct. It is strange, therefore, to know that majority of families nowadays train their children strictly on English language and eroding our cultures and traditions, all in the name of westernization. This is a tickling time bomb. Values inculcated in us were good character, good name, discipline, integrity, truthfulness, cleanliness, hard work, dedication, loyalty, God-fearing, sound education, and responsibility. I remember a day I was running late and dressed up for school without doing my morning course. As I prostrated fully, saying, Udabo, sir, meaning bye-bye, sir, Daddy asked, have you done your course in Yoruba? I couldn't answer in the affirmative. He then asked that I should go and remove my uniform and perform my duties, and that when I get punished for lateness in school, next time I'll learn to wake up earlier and do my course. This taught me how to be responsible and time conscious. I remember another incident of my goose. My uncle requested for a glass of water. 50-50 calls it. Half hot water and half cold water, making it warm water. As I dashed from his front, I accidentally kicked or brushed his leg while leaving. He called me back and instructed me in Yoruba, Lo mu adawa kowage itakun to fese kolenkan, meaning go and bring a cutlass, machete, and cut the tree roots you kicked then. I turned to leave, only to realize my goof of not apologizing when I kicked his foot in error. I quickly prostrated and said, sorry, sir. That was courtesy lesson 101. I never forgot the incidents and lessons, using an idiom for corrections. Wow. I remember the good old telephone always under lock and key. I won't disclose some naughty pranks we played to dial numbers without opening the padlock. God help you if you are caught in the act. Your punishment will be near capital. I recall my uncle had tools of various artisans. We repaired minor things ourselves. Hammer, nails, saw, crowbar, shovels, plumb, ladder, plumbing machine, a toolbox for screwdrivers and paint brushes. We actually painted part of the house once. He was a hands-on man, a life skill I possess till date. Memories. What of dress code? Everyone must tuck in their shirts going out, neat and ironed. No collar flying. Hair must be cropped neat at Maridoti Babas, Makola. But what do we have today? Nudity has replaced decency. Now we glorify Yahooism as a profession. Drugs and drunkenness proliferate and rule our world. Mentorship gone to the winds and lawlessness now order of the day. How did we get here? Growing up, our orientation of sound moral values was right. And it has helped me later in life to mix freely with people of diverse cultures and traditions. It is the same values that has helped me in my passion, drive, and calling into integrated development communication initiatives, where we use arts as a tool for advocacy and education for attitudinal change of various publics. This is a clarion call, a call for us to revisit those old-time tested values of integrity, discipline, patriotism, hard work, dedication, humility, good character, and high moral standards. It is time for us to call the emerging generation to borrow a leaf from our past when there was dignity in labor, honesty, perseverance, and belief in God, who is the author and finisher of our faith. Let's shun tribal sentiments and embrace religious tolerance. Hunger does not discriminate. You are uniquely made. Nigeria can and will be great again if we all do the needful and stop the blame game. Let us ask ourselves one question. Am I truthful and honest in my dealings as a parent, government, or a businessman? What legacy are we leaving behind for our children? They deserve a future that is greater than our past. We owe them a duty to lead them right. Nigeria needs an urgent national moral rebirth to galvanize credible leadership and responsible followership. Therefore, I join Sir Shimore Badejo on this noble initiative to say there is hope for Nigeria still. Our good old days can be a foundation for a better tomorrow. Let's do our bit to make our country great again. Long live Nigeria. Thank you.
Sometimes when we see celebrities either on social media, television, or in person, we assume they have it all together, but we forget that they're also human. Well, here are some of the low points of some of your favorite celebrities.
as a young person growing up, I have had to sell akamu on my head. You know, yeah, on a tray. You go like in the morning, like very early in the morning before I go to school. Buy akamu, you know. That's why you should never underrate anyone, no matter the situation. You see them or you find them. When I go to UK and had to play at the Rio Festival Hall with Miriam Makeba, then, oh my God, I'm like, that's akamu selling girl that was selling akamu. You know, so be inspired. Be inspired. Follow your dream. Follow your heart. Sit back and say, what is my passion in life? What can I do to better the world? And before you know it, you're already making an impact.
When I came to Lagos here after school, I remembered I entered what is called 911. 911 is a kind of lorry found then that they will load Gary, load in at the back. Then in between the driver and the load, we have what is called second class. And that is where I sat. And could you believe that by the time I got to Ido and I came down, my box, my shoe, because it took us 3 days from Bender, from Midwest to Lagos, all my loads were loaded. You see, when you pass through such, and when you become somebody, you look back and you look at what people are going through, it makes you to help others.
When I decided to be an apprentice photographer, we were living in Ibutimeta, and I would trek, from Ibutimeta into Willoughby, from Willoughby into cross the Leventis into Ido Road, past Ido railway station, go across the Kata Bridge, and then into Agbogbon, into Broad Street. And I trekked that for 1 whole year. And then finally, when I got to London, I had to be a cleaner, every morning. Get out of the house by 4:30 to clean till 9 a.m. and then rush off to school. So I've done quite a lot of things like that, and I still continue to do that. And so for me, it is part of one's development. And I didn't see that I was suffering. Occasionally, you want to stop. You have cried many times. I've failed many times, but I've just got up. I get up again. A lot of people, I enjoy goodwill of some people who pull me up again and help me on my feet, and then I go on.
I finished that film and I became very famous. As young as I was, I didn't even know what it was. Film, everybody would just be calling me over. I'm like, what's wrong? What's going on? When the film was all over the place, so I couldn't go to the market, and I used to go to the market a lot, to go and buy all these second-hand, all the second-hand outfits, and then there was one day I went to the market with a couple of my friends, and I just realized that I just couldn't buy these things anymore, because they would tease me. The market, the people in the market, the traders will always tease me and said, so you see, they come buy Bendam Boutique, So that made me realize that, so if I become a star, there are a lot of things I won't be able to do, or what? So I went back and I said to myself, is this how I'm going to live my life? I won't be who I want to be. I won't be myself. And I said, no, I won't let that catch up with me. Just be who you are, no matter your craft, no matter how high you think you've become. Still be that same person that the girl next door, still the girl or the boy next door that people can always relate to.
Hello, you're welcome to this edition of Timeless Conversations. My guests today, are two young men who are lighting the path, charting the way for the next generation of Nigerians who, in a short while, will be fully in charge of running our society. To my left is Joshua Alabi. You're welcome, Joshua. And then to my right, even though both of them are sitting in front of me, is Aniefio Ian. You're welcome too. Now, these gentlemen are involved in an organization called Kinenso Concepts, right?
Yes.
Now, they will tell us what Kinenso is all about. So Joshua, you're the founder.
Yes, I am.
What's Kinenso?
Kinenso means what are you saying, or what is he saying?
Okay.
And for us, it's about what we want to say as young people. Many years ago, we thought that Nigeria is a country that is very rich, not just rich in culture and tradition, and with all the languages that we have, we're rich in talent, young people, creativity. So above all the news around Nigeria about how young people are into all sorts, as young people within this same generation, how do we change this narrative? What do we want to say? How do we say it? So that's how we found Kinenso.
Kinenso, what's the platform that you're using to propagate these ideas?
So our platform is basically the creative industry, film and theater, and that we have done from what I would say successfully, and we are still pushing more. We want the world to hear our voices. We have something that we know that the world needs to hear. We are telling our own story, original story. So we want the world to hear us. We want the world to see us from a different perspective. I'll just quickly chip this in. We did a project called Imagination TV, and it was all about how do we see each other. So when you call Nigeria, how are we seen outside? Some people think Africa is a country. Some people don't even know Nigeria exists. So we are always out there telling these stories.
Okay. So now, Joshua, why did you guys choose that platform, the platform of theater, of film, of acting and all that? Why?
So I would like to say theater. Firstly, Kinenso is more of a theater organization. We do quite a lot with documentaries and all of that. Still, when you watch all our works, it's still from theater. And why did we choose theater? Because theater is where the live action is. There is no cut. It has a power of its own. It provokes you, the audience, into doing something. Someone is in front of you, acting in a very intense way. You need that feedback. That person needs to feed on you while you're feeding on the person at the same time. The synergy that it creates. So that's why we chose the platform of theater and film and documentaries.
All right. So both of you have backgrounds in theater arts.
Yes.
So you're classmates or something?
Okay. So, yes, we're classmates, and I like to tell the story how we started Kinenso.
Kinenso now.
In 2010, thereabout, I was in Unilag, Creative Arts Department. I came to study theater. And I had tried this years before then. I was in UI Theater Department. I left there, went to LASU Theater Department. It didn't work out until I got to Unilag. And we were about 150 in my class.
That's a large class.
Large class. Few months or about a year later, I realized that every other person, all 149 people, had come to Unilag to study something else. Either to study law or philosophy or mass comm or something else. Only one.
Original theater arts
student. So because they didn't meet the cutoff, the usual thing, they were all dumped into the department, and it was obvious the way they did things, the way they handled the assignments and practical works. And for me also, even though many of them didn't know I was a student until after 2 years.
How come? Stop. How come you didn't know he was a student?
Okay, so Joshua is that one person that you look for in class. So for me, I didn't know he was even a student.
You thought he was probably
I thought he was
a graduate assistant?
Yes, so someone that just come and work with lecturers and leave. Until like, maybe when we were finishing like second semester in 100 level, and I'm like, okay. So I get to see him when all other people are rehearsing, and I get to see, and I'm like, oh, okay.
He's one of us.
So you're a student here. This gentleman that always comes with a big bag on his back. So you're a student actually. Yeah, so that's it.
What was in that bag?
Everything. My toothbrush, my clothes for the next few days, soap, food, books. Yes,
Why
just
did
anything.
you live like that?
Well, I didn't know. So I enjoyed carrying my bag. And because of the nature of my work, I would probably leave school to another film set, to another rehearsal. So I'll end what I need to do maybe around 11 p.m. or 12 a.m. midnight that same day. And I can't go back home, so I just have to crash somewhere around or that same place. So it was just really easy for me to get things done.
And your parents didn't complain?
I wasn't even living with my parents. I had left my parents since about age 13, 14, thereabout.
Oh, really? So it was easy for you to just be yourself?
Yes, it was.
No qualms?
No qualms at all. They also didn't know what was going on. I had left my dad's house because he didn't want me to study theater. He kicked against
I wanted to hear that now.
He didn't want me to study theater. You know,
what did he want you to study?
He wanted me to be an accountant.
Oh.
So he did all he could. But also, my passion for theater, my passion for telling stories, came from my mom. My mom then, even though a very devout Christian, but she was a choir mistress, a fashion designer. She played the instrument. So everything my mom did, I learned because we were also very close. And I still do.
Wow.
I make a lot of things. I can make soap. They laugh at me sometimes that what can't I do? I make so many things. I can do so I can make money from so many things. But then I would go with my mom to the village. She used to attend the different festivals, the Shango festival. Her father was a Shango worshipper and was a Olode. So he would pull tricks and magic, and I fell in love with the whole color, costume, music, dance, the gun shooting. Everything was just really interesting to me, and that was where the passion for telling stories, for acting, for performing.
We will come back to you and your mom, because you just revealed something that's very, very interesting and key in the process of development of a person. Right now, and if in your case, his bag attracted you, or what?
Yes.
How easy was it for you guys to hit it off?
Well, it was quite easy for us to hit it off because I saw someone with fire. I saw someone with passion. And for one, I didn't come to study theater in the first place.
What was your original interest?
My original interest was law. I came to study law, and unfortunately, I always say fortunately, I fall short 2 cut-off marks. I think 3 off law. I was angry. I was pissed because at the time I could study any other course in the University of Lagos, even medicine, apart from law. So I said, I'm going to do JAMB again. I need to study law. And they said, come, this guy, no waste time, now high cut-off, go find something to study.
Okay.
So I went back, I said, okay, I'll do a change of course. And they convinced me that 1 year you can go back and study law if you don't like it. And I found myself there.
And 1 year in?
I'm 1 year in,
you
and
were
I'm
fully
like,
in.
Okay, I don't think that this young man can be serious in court anyway. So, and when I saw him, he had this drive, he had this passion, like, he made me believe you can actually make a living out of being a theater practitioner.
That's good.
That was what I saw. I'm like, okay, you have the fire. You know what? Let me join you. Let me bond with you. Let's do this together.
That was to burn or to bond.
Yeah.
All right, we'll take a break here now. When we come back, we'll resume our talk with these 2 gentlemen who are shining the light on a very glorious path, I believe. Welcome back. It's still Timeless Conversations on this channel. My two guests, two wonderful young men. Let me simply call them Joshua and Iniefioka, right? I got that right?
Yes.
Very good. Before we took the break, you were talking about your mom and her influence on you when it comes to the development of the theater bug in you. You said she is a devout Christian, but still related with her father, who was a Shango worshipper and the head hunter of the community. Which community was that?
Modakeke
in Osun State. Okay. Now, how were you able to balance those different belief systems that you saw?
For me, it wasn't totally different. Firstly, I was in love. I was all out for the fun and the depth of it. The music in church, I would sing, I would play the harmonica, I would perform, act in drama, work and with people, with other young people. Same thing in the village. The people would work together, would sing together, make clothes, and there was the performance bit. So for me, it was more about the performance and the engagement, how the people work together to have fun.
You said something about making clothes.
Yes, they made clothes. They made their costumes. Okay. All the hunters and I remember I used to meet with some of the Unifas. Then they used to make their own clothes, tying the beads, dye some of them, and it was fun. It was entertaining.
So it was like a hands-on thing for you.
Yes, it was a hands-on thing for me, and I didn't totally understand the depth of
there was some mystery to what
the mystery, yes, and the depth of this is Christianity, it was the same thing. I only remember that then my dad used to kick against my mom taking me there because he saw how
enthusiastic
and yes, I was with this thing. I didn't know there had to be, you had to choose one, Christianity or this, but I think on the long run, both have built me. I mean, I believe I'm a Christian, but at the same time, I understand culture and I love it, and I use my culture to tell religious stories sometimes.
So many years after, do you still relate with your granddad?
Yes, I mean, even though they are all late now.
Yes.
But yes, I really do. There's an aspect of them in everything that I do.
That you do. That's very good. Now, he was the one that brought you into all of this. But since you got into it, what has it been like for you?
Since I got into it, for me, I tell people that I couldn't have made it as a lawyer.
Wow.
Yes, I tell people that because for me, this is an expression. It allows you to, what I would say, impersonate any character that you want to be. It gives you the freedom to express yourself. So we have the liberty to go on stage and look the politician in the eye and tell him that you're corrupt. And he can't do anything about it.
Yes.
So for me, that freedom that I enjoy is what I value the most.
Okay.
Yes, it's a place to hear my voice. It's a place for my opinion to be heard.
Okay. Now, there's something you guys have said you've done about training about 10,000 young men. How did you do that?
Okay, so when we say we've trained actually over 10,000, but not just in Nigeria. I mean, I think if we were to count in Nigeria, maybe about 5,000 to 10,000 just alone. But we've worked in other countries. We've worked in several African countries, Rwanda, Cameroon, Zimbabwe, Angola, Egypt, and so much more. But in Nigeria, we have a festival called KIFT. With that festival, we engage at least a minimum of 5,000 students.
You said
and
KIFT?
KIFT, K-I-F-T.
Oh, okay.
Kenesa International Festival of Theatre. So we create works for children aged 0 to 2, 2 to 7, 7 to 14.
When does that hold?
It holds every November.
Oh, okay.
November every year, and we bring in international facilitators, workshops. We engage the teachers with psychologists on how best to teach children and teenagers. So in the area of arts, we teach young people, we teach secondary school, primary school children, and then we also work with communities. We have series of trainings. There's also something called the lab. So there's Bariga Lab, Oregon Lab, Ikeja Lab, where we teach young people on hands-on skills, photography, animation, and different things. We also teach business of creativity. So it's quite a lot that we do. And we work with communities as well on our advocacy project, our Theatre for Development. We research a lot. We work with some of the NGOs, and it's quite a large community.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about your Bariga experience. How did you, coming from your background, you know, and then ending up in Bariga?
It was,
What was that like?
that's also part of how the second bit of how Kennesaw was formed. I'd always been curious about, you know, asking questions and wanting to know things. So I found myself in Bariga. I like to, you know, express it that way. I had lived in Ogba and then to Alagbado. And even that area of Alagbado, my father built his house. It still felt like we were living in our own interesting space. We had everything. And then I went to Bariga, smelling, you know, kids. And then Bariga was very, you know, one of the most violent places in Lagos. You would go to the downtown, you'd go to down Ilaje or Sosa. You'd find young people with guns and, you know, so on. It was terrible for me. I joined a theater company there, and we were always in constant battle, constant confrontation with the
street talks.
The street, you know, with the streets, and then with the artists. We were the only people who could face them, who could, we had no guns, but we would take our performance to the street or to their base and then begin to dance and begin to do some poetry. And they would get angry, scream. They couldn't harm us because while they were trying to recruit some young people, we were also trying to recruit some young people. And that's how the art in Bariga has blossomed so much. And yes, in my quest to wanting to say something, to ask questions, that's how we formed Kennesaw to say, what do we want to say? We want to say that Nigerians, young people in Nigeria can do better, can say, can be bold enough to look into the eyes of any leader and say, you're not doing it right, you have to do it right. How do we do that? Through theater.
Now, the advocacy that grew out of that has led you to collaborate with a lot of NGOs and civil society organizations. There's a particular play that you guys did recently?
Talk and Do.
Yeah, something like that.
Talk and Do was at Alliance Francaise in Lagos. It was also in Kano and Abuja. It was supposed to go to Edo and other states, but we couldn't due to COVID. With Talk and Do, we were dealing with addressing the issues of impunity, corruption and accountability amongst the leaders. So we brought in leaders from the police commission, from the police force, from the judiciary, from the Nigerian Bar Association, from other CSOs, from the community as well. We brought them all into a room, made this theater piece called Talk and Do. And for us, just the way the name sounds, it is what you say, do it, practice what you preach. So, and then we brought them, performed this piece that had to do with how they're treating issues of people with disability, issues of police brutality, the deteriorating judicial system, and all of these issues, real issues that happen. So we performed for them, and afterwards put them all in groups, including the artists, to have a conversation, to discuss what's the feedback, what's the commitment, what are we committing to do after this, what do we want to do better.
Okay. Now, when you look at such a performance, the curious mind in the public would say it's convenient for young people to point accusing fingers at the leadership. What are young people themselves doing? There's so much yahoo around. There's so much ritual killings around. There's so much of violence motivated by this get-rich-quick attitude. What would you say as a young person?
These issues the issue of Yahoo ritual killings, I don't think and I don't believe they are issues that can be exhausted so quickly, because the root cause sometimes are just something that they are quite disturbing. Sometimes you look at the background where some of these people are coming from, and then you look at the pressure that the social media is putting so many young people through, and these are some of the things that has driven so many young people. It has driven them. They say, you know what, I want to get rich quick. For me, I say it's greed. Like the popular saying, you want to chill with the big boys. You want to roll with the big boys.
Yes.
I mean, these are the things that drive most young people. When I was 18, I never dreamt of driving, I think, 504.
Yeah.
I never dreamt of driving a 504. It was beautiful from afar.
Yeah.
And I looked at it and I appreciated it.
Yeah.
But all I knew is that a time was coming when I would drive a car.
Yes.
But not at that age. So what young people fail to do now is they fail to follow process. My father taught me to enjoy process. He said something that has never left me from when we were young.
What did he say?
He said, it is better for you when you're writing an exam. He said it's better for you to fail and fail honorably than for you to cheat and pass. So for each time in the university when I did a course and I failed, and people say, what did you? I said I failed it. I'll do it again. So that for me is a lesson that has and will never leave me as a person.
Sure.
Yes. So for me, I think these pressures in the society are those things that are driving young people. Process. Young people now don't want to follow process. They don't want to endure the process.
You know, carefully, when you say something like pressure from society, it sounds as though the home were being pushed out of that equation. What is society without the home?
Very true. The first place a child learns anything is the home.
Yeah.
I learned, my behaviors were built from my home. So the home is the first place that children learn, that young people learn. And it's so sad that some of these young people are put under pressure from the home. So many times I have a nephew that I've raised for a long time. And many times I would say to the mom, don't ever compare your son to someone else. Your son is your son.
Yeah.
If he gets this and that grade, he's your son. Don't tell him that, see, your friend is getting that grade and you're no. This is his grade. So whenever he comes back with his grades and I'm like, okay, you got this, you got this, you got this, I say, wow, fantastic, this is good. But you know, I know you can do better. That's so. Let's strike a deal, make it better. I do not ever try to compare him with someone else.
So that's positive pressure.
Yes.
The negative one will come in the area of
it's destructive.
Money.
Why? Yes. So why not be like this? So when young people see that, I mean, some parents. I have a friend whose mom would curse on her when she needs money. Just would do anything for her to give her money, and she often says, "So this woman know how to get money." So those pressures most of the time would lead people to doing what they would not normally want to do.
There was a story I read of Professor Sam Aluko of blessed memory, who returned to Nigeria with his PhD and all that, got a job, and he went home with a car. And everybody in his village celebrated him and all that. In the deep of night, he said that his father and mother called him and said, "Where did you get money to buy that car?" And he now smiled and told them, "Oh, that car is on loan, that he bought it on loan." These days, people buy cars and nobody's questioning them. Young people. Would you take a car home and your dad will welcome you?
But, I mean, let me say this. If I take a car home right now, my father, if he were to be alive, would still question me. Yes, he would still question me like, okay, so what do you do? What he's trying to do is, he's not saying that I cannot own a car now, but he's trying to vet, what do you do? Your job, is it able to get you this lifestyle at this particular point in time? But these are the things that some parents don't do. Some parents don't care. Our society right now, we've come to a stage where, you know what, just make it. We don't care how you make it. All we want to do is we want to celebrate you. Now the latest big boy be that.
So Joshua, where does that lead us?
It leads us into destruction.
But we don't want to be destroyed.
Yes, we don't want to be destroyed.
So what is Kenenso going to do?
Kenenso is actually doing a lot.
Yeah.
We're hoping to do more. With support, we believe we can do more. We've, over the years, touched almost everything that affects us as a people. Aside treating the subject of malaria, of cancer, we did a research for about 2 years and came up with a script and a play and some short campaign on a work called Sniper. And Sniper focused on depression, mental health, suicide. Why young people would rather just die rather than, I mean, I don't think when my parents or the older generation during their time, when they fail or when they're unable to buy the big cars, I mean, even though they were not even, the race wasn't even about to buy the big cars then, the race was to impress the family, impress the society, be the light of that, of that society. But they wouldn't die, they wouldn't jump off a cliff or into the river. But now, so Sniper tried to deal with the issues, and we met with families of people who have committed suicide or victims, and it was quite an intense project. So we touched the area of Sniper to let young people know that you're doing fine, choose life first, hard work, do not devalue hard work. Take responsibility. You fail, you try again, you move on. So with Sniper, we've done that, and with Join Body, Join Body was Sorry and Join Body. We had a performance called Sorry before the election in 2019, and we had Join Body after the election. What Sorry did was, Sorry went to different stops in Lagos.
Stops? You mean bus stops?
Bus stop, yes. Ilaje bus stop. Obalende, Yanoba. We kept going from place to place around Lagos to perform to young people, market women, young and old, to let them know that their vote is their power. Even though you think you're old, Nigeria cannot give you anything. For those coming, they still need you to vote. So for young and old, we really interacted with a lot of street boys, Agberu, under the bridge. We were able to convince some of them. It was quite impressive working with them. With Join Body as well, we also looked at the aftermath of the election. Why violence? Why is that the way? Why do we, in the name of political party, break apart? How can we come together to decide and say, this person we've elected into office, you must be accountable. We must, as we were saying earlier, we must have your phone number. We must know what you're doing. We must be able to monitor the work that you've promised to do for us as a people.
No, the interesting thing is that on the one hand, society complains about young people feeling so entitled. On the other hand, the young people complain about the older generation, that they don't want to leave the scene. But can you say that the younger generation is prepared to take over?
No, we're not. We're not prepared to take over, and it is still very, it is pronounced in our body language, our attitude. We have a friend called Effective. He's a radio presenter. Effective now is vying for the, I think, House of Rep office, and he's finding it difficult to even bring his own friends to understand his vision and to support him. And we keep saying politics is for the old people, it's a dirty game. it will keep being dirty until we get involved. But to answer your question, we're not ready. And why do I think we're not ready? I think we're not ready because what we consume does not reflect a generation that wants change. What we consume in terms of content, in terms of in terms of content, in terms of our social behavior, even the economic behavior, it does not reflect it. We still reflect Nigeria is not working for me. The government has done nothing for me. So I either japa or I stay here and make it reach anyhow. And with that attitude, we really cannot do anything.
I totally agree with him. Young people, we are not ready. And the reason why I'm saying we are not ready is if we take a look at the lifestyle and we want to separate generations from one generation to another, now the values that our parents had as a generation is totally different from what we now see as values. So today, our lifestyle, we've all thrown away our values to social media. So the social media instructs most young people on what to do. And for me, I'm scared because I have little ones, younger ones, nephew, and I'm asking myself, is this what they are going to come up to see? We've seen 18 years, 17, 19, wanting to drive a car, wanting to use the kinds of phones.
Well, he can drive. They can drive a car if they have access to the car.
Yes, but they want to buy. They want to buy a house. So I had a friend. A sad story. We left the village together, came to Lagos. He went to school, studied electrical and electronic engineering, University of Lagos. And when he came in, he was fascinated by the lifestyle. He saw young boys driving tinted cars. And the next thing was that he wanted to drive a tinted car. Wow. I was satisfied trekking to school. I was glad doing it. But he wanted to drive a car. And today he's no more.
No more.
So he bored for 2 years, like they say in our time, and he left the scene. So for me, this is a problem that our generation
But how do we solve it? It can't be all that gloomy. There are still young people who are hardworking, who are dedicated, and who are committed to making a difference in society. Seems we're not hearing so much about them.
That's where I think for a generation that is prepared or that wants to show that we are prepared, we need to begin to celebrate those people, the people doing small things. We know a few of them. A lot of people don't. And it's not about the big things. It's about the small
things, yes.
The small, many things. We know Isaac in Ajegule. We know Shinwa Ubaju in Bariga, who started a free school.
Yeah.
He built by the seaside. He bought the land, I think about 250 per plot. He bought about 6 plots with wood, and him and his friends, they built the school. And all the children within that community, when you're driving on Third Mainland, that, the wooden part you see of Bariga, every child, now they have over 300 to 400 children from primary 1 till JS3, SS3 presently. And actually last year, some of them wrote JAM and WAEC, and they came out in flying colors.
That's the kind of story we should be telling.
Exactly.
Hold on. We'll take a break now, and when we're back, we'll continue that. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Timeless Conversations. Before the break, we were talking about celebrating the members of the younger generation who are making positive waves, and you were talking about the free school, that's one Mr. Awubajo.
Yes,
Okay.
In Bariga. The school has about 300 to 400 children, and Sean has had to regularly find a way to raise funds to pay the teachers and for the children to attend the school for free. And they now the government, the local state government, has seen the good work they're doing, and they're looking at ways to help. And there's also a Bolore initiative who built Jelusime Art Center and teaching every young person that's interested within initiative painting, adire making for free.
Really?
Them to exhibit, also looking for platforms for them to exhibit anything they make and get it bought by people, and then thereby making money. So quite a lot of people, also at Kingsop, we are also doing quite a lot with young people, and we should begin to celebrate.
So that's the thing you said about process, that to make money there's a process, to make an impact in society there's a process. The process doesn't need to be created by government though.
Yes.
Because all this you said now were created by those young people who had the inspiration to want to do something. Now, the inspiration you guys have is being expressed in the area of advocacy, of theater, of the moving production that you move from one point to the other. However, what about getting involved in politics? Why are young people running away from politics? Why?
I think it's still that thing of that question of what has the government done for me? They fail to remember that the government is you and me, whether we like it or not. You know, call it whatever you want to call it. The government is still us, and until we can speak together, get engaged, and that's the way forward. No time for fence sitters anymore or back sitters. We want change. You're sure that you want to do something good. You're sure that you have great ideas. Step forward. Let people, and don't expect to be supported at that point. You know, but keep trying. That's the thing. Everything in life is about, you know, trying again and again and again. But as we've discussed earlier, our generation, we don't have that focus. We don't have that ability to concentrate on one thing and put all our energy and effort into it to understand it, to achieve the big picture. We believe that it starts now, it has to be successful now, it has to come out fine now. If it doesn't, then it's not the way. But getting involved in politics is the way to go now, and not just getting your PVC.
Yes, I was going to say, okay, so do you have a PVC?
Oh yes, I do have my PVC.
Okay.
And a long time ago, I changed my mind about politics being a dirty game.
Oh, I see.
Yes.
Tell me the story.
About even if I vote or I don't vote, the person who's going to win will still win. So I changed my mind a long time ago, and it took me to the point that I left my house. I walked for like 30 minutes just to go and vote.
That's a very long trek.
Yes, I did it just to go and vote. And when my friends heard the story, they were like, Kushel, patriotic Nigeria, change maker. And I'm like, you know what? If we are all going to come out and say, you know, we are going to vote, it's going to make rigging an election very difficult.
Yes.
When people come out and vote, it makes rigging very difficult.
Yes.
But that's one point that we don't understand. And for young people going into politics, we always have the ideology that politics is a dirty game. So if you don't want to play dirty, don't go into politics. And this has also been a mindset that has been spread around even Christians and Muslims.
Yes.
People that say, oh, we are Puritans. We don't want to soil our hands in a dirty game. And I'm so glad that right now we've realized that we have made a mistake.
Yeah.
If you want to change things, then you need to be in the gathering where decisions are made.
Yes.
So if we don't get into politics, how do we even want to change these things in the first place? How do we even want to choose our own leaders? Someone was saying, "Oh, thank God I didn't vote." I said, "Thank God me, I voted." I might vote and my candidate does not win, the person I voted for.
Yeah.
But I have one thing: I voted for someone. That is my point. That is what I want to take home.
Yes, so now if we mobilize to get young people involved in politics, what should be the drive? For instance, the impact of social media was felt during the recent NSAS protests that took place majorly were firstly in Lagos, Abuja, and then spread to other cities or states in Nigeria. The mobilization was done majorly through and by social media. But the coordination of, okay, what to do beyond the protest failed. Because if you talk to government, if you talk to anybody who is in leadership, you call attention. They must have people to relate to. That didn't follow. A political party could have emerged from that protest. So as young people, what kind of examples can be set for your generation, by your generation?
So I would say that passion, that will and drive we had during the NSAS protest, if we continuously have that for another 8 years, then this real change will start. Our generation, we must understand that in everything we do, we must be willing to compromise. We must be willing to stoop to conquer. We held the nation for a week or more, and we could not make anything out of it. Why? Because we wanted to be louder than we were already. For me, at that point, I was saying, my opinion was, we could have gotten, we can't get the presidency, we can't get it. Not because we can't, but because we're not prepared for it.
Yeah.
So, Kosovo is a good example. But at least, if our generation had asked for seats in the House of Rep at that time, if we had asked for if we had taken major decisions, if we had asked for local government seats to, some local governments around Nigeria, because really that's what the change is. The change is not totally up there as far as I'm concerned. The change is the local government chairman who's doing interesting things in his community. So in Lagos, if we have 20 local governments or 15 filled up with young people, that's a great achievement.
Young people who are working.
Young people who are working, who have a vision.
Because there are young people who have already joined the old bandwagon.
Exactly. So I think that's the way to go. The way to go is not to bid for the biggest. The way to go is to bid for the many small, the councillorship, the House of Rep, the House of Assembly. That's what we need to start from, because those are the people actually making the law. Those are the people controlling that immediate environment. So for me, that's my recommendation.
That's what's yours?
For me, my recommendation would be that young people should learn to support people for a cause, not for my cause.
Okay.
So.
Or what's in it for me?
Yes, what's in it for me? If we are going to be working to build a nation, let's build a nation. For instance, I don't want to support a Joshua because when he gets there, he's going to give me all the contracts in the States. I want to support him because when he gets there, he's going to do what is right for the States.
Yep.
So that would be something, so I don't have expectations that, oh, I supported him, I gave him all my support because I wanted this and that from him. I'm supporting him for the greater good. And then young people should also learn to use the social media to their advantage. We have used the social media for every other thing right now, and for more negative things than positive things. I think we should be able to use the social media now for more positive things.
Yeah.
The social media is a platform for people to converse, air your opinions, and all of that. Why not use it positively? If I'm to run for a position now, I have a platform of the social media to campaign. I have the platform of social media to tell people, this is my dream, this is my vision, this and this is what I want to do. So let's use that platform well. Let's not abuse it.
I'm smiling now because of what you just said and realizing that a lot of people on social media make noise. Many of them don't have PVCs. And whether we like it or not, we need to keep up the campaign for PVCs, because that's when the statement, your vote is your power, makes sense. You can't vote without a PVC. And many young people deliberately are not enrolling to have their PVCs. Is Kininso doing anything in that regard?
Yes, we're doing quite a lot though. Of course, we have our PVCs, and jokingly last week at the office, I was saying, how can we, I want to create a TV show. How can we gather people that are our own personal people, about 1,000 people, to get their PVC and vote through a prank, because we watch prank videos everywhere. And then I was just thinking randomly like, okay, at least if I begin to count people from my church, people I know from all sorts, everywhere, I should be able to get at least 500 people that I know. My WhatsApp, I have over 3,000 people on my WhatsApp. So how can we get them all to have their PVC? Let me cook up a lie that I'm vying for a position. They will want to vote for me. I mean, well, maybe not vote for me, but I know the 500 that would respond to my call when I make the call that I want to have a meeting, and they will come. Have your PVC. You know, so these are some of the things we're thinking of. We're also thinking of creating the ideal Nigeria, the ideal future, because we know that that's the power of storytelling. Tell people for something over time, let them hear it over time, let them see it over time. It begins to register in their consciousness. How can we create a campaign where we no longer show the sad Nigeria, the pain in Nigeria? How can we begin to show police as what they should be? How can we begin to show our schools, the education system, as what it should be? How can we show in pictures, in stories, how can we show justice being delivered on time? So these are some projects that we're thinking of that would help young people to change their mindset, to change their perspective of things, and take charge of the political space.
Now, you said something about there being money in theater, in the dramatic arts and all that. How do you rate the coming of Netflix to the Nigerian space? How? The impact you think it's had or it's having and could even further have on the income?
Okay, so I would say it's a good development. We should always expect change to come. And why I'm saying it's a good development is coming into this space, we now have the opportunity to meet these people one-on-one. And if I have a work that is good, I now have a platform. I can always run around and try to get them to see it. It might be difficult, but just the fact that they are there gives me that hope that, guys, you know what? Let's just keep doing this thing. One day, they are going to see it. So for me, it's a good development. And of course, it's good money. It's good money for the pocket.
Are you planning anything towards being able to tap into the Netflix money?
Yes.
Or let's say Netflix opportunity?
Opportunity. Yeah. Yes, actually, since 2020, we've been talking to a distributor
Okay.
who's also on the Netflix, who's also a Netflix consultant,
Okay.
who sources for films and so on. And we haven't, not that we haven't found the ideal story yet, but we personally, I would say, I don't know what it is. We have great stories. We have great work. We have great stories, scripts already, stories. But maybe the time hasn't come.
Yeah.
That's how I believe, that's how I see it, that when the time is right, the right content will find the right platform.
That's what he said about process again. That it takes time.
Yes.
You prepare for it. When the opportunity comes, then to say it in the parlance of the younger generation, you blow.
And I just want to say this in light of this, what we're discussing. Maybe it would make sense or help anybody to understand what we mean better. Since we started Kineso in 2011, our dream has always been to, yes, tell stories across Nigeria, but be that organization that would employ 90% theater graduates and take them around the world, make money, get exposed, gain more knowledge, and so on. And from the first year up until the third or fourth year, we kept trying, we kept contacting universities abroad that have theater departments, and it wasn't working. And the first opportunity, second opportunity, we were slammed this time. It didn't work. And after the second one, while planning for the third one, we told ourselves, we discussed, we said, this will be the last time. This will be the last time. And indeed it was the last time. And we moved it to the point where the embassies in Nigeria are the ones who then look for opportunities for us abroad to say, we found this or we know these guys. We want you to come do something with them. So the process never fails.
That's the power of process, right? And taking your time preparing, not giving up at all. Now, with the experience you've had now, you started some almost 11 years ago, and respectively between you, each one of you will be anything between 30-something and 40, right? In about 10, 15 years' time, you'll be about 50 or a little older. They'll start calling you old man. What do you see yourselves doing in the next 10, 15 years?
I see myself still telling stories, but most importantly, teaching.
Okay.
I apologize for using those words. I hate the way the system of teaching and training in Nigeria. It's like a war zone. So that's why I train, that's why I facilitate workshops quite a lot, from team bonding to any other thing. In 10, 15 years' time, I want to keep training, I want to keep developing people in different fields, not just arts, in business of creativity, in different art forms. People need to be able to not just communicate effectively, but through the arts, through this training, know where they want to go, know what is right for them.
All right, so Anifa?
I'm not going too far from that. And the reason why I would say teaching, training people is so far we are products of people that have gone ahead of us, even though we don't have the opportunity to really learn from as much people as we would love to. That's why I would say teaching. I want to be able to open my doors and have 50 people, 100 people who say, you know what, I actually learned from this guy, and he's a great guy. And for me, it's a ripple effect. When you teach people, you are giving them a part of yourself that you don't get back. And when you teach them, they teach others who teach others. So it's a ripple effect.
So that's like you're both committed to giving back to society.
Yes.
For the opportunities you have had.
Yes.
Before we go, I'd like to say to both of you that you're such an inspiration.
Thank you.
You are, and you show that there is really hope for our country and society. But I want each one of you to look into the camera and say to your generation what you want them to do. Joshua?
Okay. Take responsibility. Take responsibility. Know that if you have a sister, if you have a brother, they are looking up to you, and you can't do things for them because you want it in return. So if you open up that mindset and do it for everybody, for the greater good, then things will change. Those things you want will change.
And Yefia?
Wow. I would say to my generation, life is a process. So endure the process or enjoy it and wait for your time. Your time will surely come. And don't ever forget, in whatever you do, a good name is better than riches.
Yes, and it's been a wonderful time with these two gentlemen, Joshua Alabi and Aniefio Iyang of Kinnisaw Concept Productions, right? Yes. I have enjoyed myself, and you have really lifted up my spirits and hopes about the younger generation in Nigeria. Until the next time on this program, it's been nice having you. Thank you.
Thank you.
It is engagement we need to have.
Those who suffer miscarriages are never taken into account.
Members of the National Assembly are also influence peddlers.
You are sitting on Nigerians' money.
From the barbing, I pay my rent. On the barbing, I send my children to school.
A consultative engagement.
No any tangible notification before they ban us.
It's one thing for people to be at your back and the heat of the moment, and another thing for them to still be with you when push comes to shove.
Nigeria's Niger Delta region, from where the black gold fuels Africa's largest economy, where the lines between wealth and poverty has never been thinner. Conflicts, poverty, insecurity, and environmental challenges daily confront the region. How can the Niger Delta story be changed for the better?
Join Mamude Akuga at 9 p.m. every Friday evening on Plus TV Africa as he probes deep in search of solutions.
Inside the Niger Delta with Mamude Akuga, the authentic voice of Nigeria's oil-rich region.
Yes, it's been a long run educating us on the menace of drug abuse in our society. And there's no gainsaying that Nigeria has been the worst hit when it comes to drug abuse and, of course, crime. That being said, it takes an organization with a big heart to be at the center of fighting all of this. It's my singular honor today to welcome to you on the show Dr. Dokun Adedeji, the DG of CADAM, Today, we're talking about how Kadam has been on the rescue. Need I say that Dr. Dokun Adedeji has been steering the ship of Kadam in the last 26 years. And today, he will be letting us into some of the shocking testimonies, some of the great stories that they have had in the facility, and of course, how you can be part of this laudable project. We'll take a break at this point, and then when we return, we'll delve straight into today's issue. It's still regardless. My name is Louisa Olaniyi.
na Colorado. When I bring water. Awa.
It is said that over 50 million Nigerians abuse drugs nationwide. Speaking to National Drug Law Enforcement Agency Chairman, retired Brigadier General Buba Marwa, said over 50 million Nigerians abuse drugs nationwide.
Having a 40.3 million population of drug users, among which 10.6 million abuse cannabis, should give any reasonable citizen sleepless nights. There was no way our attitude would continue to remain lukewarm.
He further added that the recent survey done by the United Nations put the country's drug users at 14.3 million Nigerians between the ages of 15 and 64, which is roughly 3 times the global average.
After that, research indicated that we have a drug use prevalence of 14.4%, almost triple the global average of 5.5%. Hence, by 2019, it was obvious that a drug abuse epidemic was looming.
From my own little experience, the percentage of our youths that are involved in drugs, let me just be conservative, will not be less than 25%. And that's very high for a society like ours.
While these frightful statistics should bother every Nigerian and promote a call to action, the Redeemed Christian Church of God, a Christian body with a goal of winning souls to Christ, was one of such organizations touched by this predicament and saw it a clarion call which inspired the founding of the non-governmental organization called Christ Against Drug Abuse Ministry, or Kadam for short. Founded in 1991 to cater to the treatment and rehabilitation of drug addicts, it started its residential rehabilitation with the construction and dedication of the Enoch and Folu Adeboye Rehabilitation Center in Ekpe, Lagos. Pastor Mrs. Folu Adeboye, wife of Pastor Enoch Adeboye, the General Overseer of the Redeemed Christian Church of God, serve as both patron and matron of the organization.
If we don't do it, it means we are not grateful. Don't let the effort of everybody here be wasted over you. Seize the moment, seize the love God has for you, and retrace back your steps to how God made you, because whatever God has not planted in your life, the Lord of hosts will uproot them. Amen. So I want to thank God for allowing you to do this awareness, and I believe you will not be a wasted person. Amen. What you are trying to promote, God will help us to promote it. Amen.
I was a parish pastor at Ikeja Parish, Ladipoluwale, in 1991. And by the grace of God, this program we had to initiate the program at that point in time because of our location. Given the location where we found ourselves, the children of these affluent people were involved in drug abuse, and some of them found their way to the church.
Kadam has since become the #1 go-to center for drug abuse prevention, drug addiction, rehabilitation, and aftercare services, with a mission to identify, prevent, and combat the multiple causes and effects of drug abuse through the development of effective programs and services.
The mission was to go to churches, or go to homes, or go to hospitals, to go pray for people who have drug problems or issues like that, until I joined in 1992. And in the process, we found that it's just not as easy as that. I remember particularly we went to I think they call it Festu, that Shokeno started, Maria Shokeno in Central Lagos. And then we were talking to these people every Sunday. We bring them food and give them clothes and talking to them. Then they said, if you want to really help us, you just have to take us out of here. That coming to pray for us and all the rest is not enough. That the moment you leave, you begin to smoke again and we sleep there. So it was then your continent said, look, why don't you go find a place where you can put us in the residential capacity and then start a rehabilitation. That was the beginning of how we started rehabilitation in 1996.
These facilities are open to all, not minding social class, professional group, religion, ethnicity, or nationality.
Here in Kadam, we do drug rehabilitation. We do not discriminate, even though it is a church-based rehabilitation center. We take people from all walks of life because drug is what I call equal opportunity affliction. It's cuts across all classes of people and all religions. So we take people from all religious background and all social backgrounds from all over the Federation.
It also accepts referrals from families and friends, partners, drug agencies, medical and healthcare services, schools, social services, and voluntary agencies. Kadam provides 3 basic services which vary from 1 year period to 3 months. They are namely prevention, rehabilitation, and aftercare. It administers to 2 kinds of people, namely the chronic problematic drug substance user who have to go through a free treatment for 1 year period, and the second type being which runs for 3 months for experimental occasional users, students and workers with drug substance issues. The Enoch and Folu Adeboye Rehabilitation Center in Ekpe, Lagos begins intake with a registration process starting from the month of March and September, and admission for the 1 year program commences from October every year, while that of the Moji Balogun Rehabilitation Center takes on every 3 months. While the war against drug abuse and addiction continues to rage in the country, all must get involved, as this represents a clear and present danger by continuing to support noble establishments who have taken it upon themselves the Herculean task of salvaging those who have been ravaged by drug abuse and addiction.
So Kadam here will change you into someone you've never been before in your life. Kadam will structure your cognitive thinking, the way you see things, the view we have of people before. Once you see someone, the first thing you come to your head is, how will I extort money from that person? That's the first thing that comes. But it will restructure your thinking now. When you see that person, you'll be, how will I make an impact or a positive thing on that person that you've seen?
I've been into drugs for the past 17 years ago. But thank God for my life today. Really, I'm into drugs. I'm into Charlie tie, cigarettes, and alcohol. And really, it almost took my life away. And drugs depart children from parents and parents from children. So I just decided on a very fateful day, I decided to get something called Kadam. So since I've been to Kadam, I came here in Kadam, I look rugged, I look like someone that is insane. But thank God for me, my life today, I'm okay, and I want to thank God, I want to thank Kadam, I want to thank everybody.
It takes an organization with a very big heart to delve into matters as huge as this. Well, we have the doc with us in the building this beautiful episode, and welcome to Regardless. Dr. Adedeji, tell us, how did this journey start?
It's a fairly long journey now. If you look at it, about 31 years ago, Kadam came into existence, and we've traveled a long way. It was just one of our pastors, Pastor Deyemi, the founder of the ministry.
Interesting. So years down the line, how has it been?
Oh, as beautiful as it's been exciting as well. What do I mean by that? You know, when you go through the dynamics of going to the joints, where they smoke and they take this drug, and then you bring them into the ministry, and then you take them through a period of a year to recondition themselves and to start life again, particularly in the area of personnel and the area of funds as well. It takes up because we had the notion from the very beginning that we should not charge for the services that we render, because these were people that have led home for years, who's never had any family member wanting to relate with them. So we know that there'll be nobody to pay for them, and the church took it upon itself as a CSR responsibility to offer that to the society. And but it's been well worth it, no matter how exasperating or frustrating it can be. It's been well worth it.
Now, you've been coordinating CADAM in the last 26 years. What has been your most shocking experience?
Quite honestly, and on reflection now, I would suggest that I would think that probably the most shocking experience I ever had was I was in a joint. We had just finished speaking to the users, and then somebody hailed me. And I turned back. The way he hailed me reminded me of when I was in college, in University of Ife. So I said, how would that be? The moment I turned, it was a guy that we were in school together. He's a lawyer. And then I looked at him. He said, Doxy, can you remember me? I remembered him. He lives in the joint. And he had finished as a lawyer, he was practicing. So I was shocked to find him there. So he said, oh boy, now wow. So for me, it was a huge blow, and then thereafter I began to see people of same sort, medical doctors, accountants, and so it began to dawn on me that we really have a major issue to deal with here, that it wasn't really the issue of motor park boys or derelicts in the society. It was up to the mighty as well. And so for me,
it was really shocking. Now, coming to up to the mighty, I mean, I want to believe that some of these people that you bring into the facility would recount their experiences. What is the most common reason why people like that go into drugs?
You know, interestingly enough, it's as varied as you see a user. But if you're talking about commonality, it's usually experimentation. Going to friends, I went to visit with a friend, there was a party, and then I ate in my friend's house, and I took a piece of cake or I took a drink. And also those kind of frivolous things that people do together as young people. And then they then find out, some find that, oh, I love that. What did you do? And then inquisitiveness starts, and then they continue in it. Some say, hey, I won't touch that again. So it depends, but then you then go into society issues, family issues, personal issues, as to why they went to drugs, which many times hinge on parental indiscretion or parental neglect, or those kind of issues.
Interesting. So it's a faith-based organization, Do you scrutinize who comes in there? Is it open to everybody?
It's open to everyone. You see, the issue of drugs that I also want people to reflect on is the fact that it has no respect for anyone. Has no respect for your status, has no respect for your age, has no respect for your religion, ethnicity, or nationality either. So what we've done is to make it as open as it can be, understand that this is faith-based, and if you come in there, then there has to be a spiritual bent to our training. And people accept it, because when you go into drug, you down in the gutters. The only thing you want is out. So whatever can give you the out and give you the opportunity of starting your life again is just as well. So it's open.
Interesting. We've been speaking with Dr. Adedeji, and it's all about CADAM to the rescue. We'll take a break, and when we come back, we talk more on what CADAM does for the society. Stay tuned.
My name is Dokun Adedeji. I used to practice medicine, as I said to people, but right now I'm the Director General of CADAM, Christ Against Drug Abuse Ministry. And what I like to say to young people is never start drug at all. It's self-destructive. So the best thing is stay off it and live your life fully.
Thanks for staying tuned. You're still watching Regardless, an anti-drug abuse television show put together by Christ Against Drug Abuse Ministry and under the auspices of the Redeemed Christian Church of God. Today, we're looking at Kadam to the Rescue, what this faith-based organization is doing to rescue people that have been enmeshed in this menace of drug abuse. And of course, we still have Dr. Dokun Adedeji with us in the studio. Thank you very much for obliging us your time one more time. Yeah, before that break, we're looking at some of the shocking stories you've seen there. And I want us to bring it down now. How do you people go about getting this people? I'm trying to avoid calling them, inmates or victims and all of that. Yes. How do you get them? And would you be off the hook to say how much does it cost to rehabilitate one person?
Right. Thank you very much. Initially when we started, we were going to the joints because that was like an introduction into what we were doing. But by the time we brought the first set of people, I remember very well, was at phase 2 in Lagos. We went to talk, we've been going there. Then one day they said to us, hey, we like what you're doing. You bring us food, you bring us clothes every Sunday, but can we tell you something? The moment you leave, we go back to drugs because we stay here. Why don't you take us out of here, away from here, away from Lagos, and so that we can get a new life? That was what stimulated having a residential rehabilitation center, which was in 1996. So we did that. Thereafter, we then found out that people were coming on their own. When they saw what had happened to the first set of people we brought, up to today, I think the first set of people we brought was about 10. About 6 of them today are still living drug-free, and that was many years ago. And so when people began to see the result, they began to come, and they began to introduce other people, and began to tell other people, and families began to bring their people. So hardly now if we go to the joint, it's just for a form of advocacy. We are inundated with number. Just about 2-3 weeks ago, when we were to take a new set of beneficiaries, in Abuja Center, we saw 55 people. Benin in Port Harcourt, we saw about 108. In Lagos, close to 300 people. And we needed 100 people for the bed space we have. So you can begin to understand and imagine the number of people began to appreciate what we're doing, and they're coming out. And one of the things is, one of the criteria is you have to be willing. So nobody can bring you and say, I want my son, I want my husband. The person must say, I need help, and I want to
Because
be
we also
here.
have people that would hide under the guise of wanting help just to see where to eat, drink, wake up, and then feel good. We also have people that they'll go in there for rehabilitation. When they go back to their old life. So how do you deal with that? More like an after service or something? The aftercare.
Let me take it from the first part. True. When we take about 100 people, initial hunger to want to live is there. But one thing we found out as well is when they come, after about a week, when there's no more source of supply, and Johnson starts, that is a withdrawal symptom, they say, hey, sorry, they find a way to want to leave. We let them leave. It's not by force. We don't chain them. We don't force them. So we leave allowance for that. So we have another set of number, like a supplementary list, that can replace them. But in terms of people going back, you see, I like to say this and emphasize it. People think rehabilitation is just about that person and us. No, it's not true. It's also about the family. It's about the person, about us, and about the society. If the person finishes, because by the time we're in the process, we have what we call family forum, where parents come, family members come, we tell them this is the progress of this person, and this is the future inclination, professionally or in whatever form. Oh, they promise them not to worry, when they finish, we'll do this and that. And when they finish, they don't give any of those things. And then so the person goes back home, there's nothing to do, and then they remind him of what he had done before. Money got lost, we don't know who Hakuku taking it. Without telling him he's taking it, or they say, you've started again, you've started to see your friend, are you going back? Those are some of the things we need to work. The moment you stigmatize, or you make them feel less than normal, or self-worth is taken out of them, you're telling them to go back.
Now, what kind of relationship do you enjoy with the NDLEA and the NOA?
Oh, we have very good relationship with them. I mean, incidentally, I'm one of the special purpose committee set up by General Marwa. So, and then we also have a working relationship. They come to us, we go to them for assistance, and then we talk, and they talk about what we've done, and they even refer people to us.
So you have a lot in your hands. But talking about having a lot in your hands, have you been beaten before by these people?
You know, look, I'm glad you asked me the question. I can tell you this. These guys are probably one of the finest people you can meet.
Wow.
You know, there's something in psychiatry called defense mechanism. They do that just to frighten you. They are just like normal you. And people think, oh, these are people, they're terrible people, they come area, but we walk in their midst. No one had ever attacked us, not in any of the joints. The moment we go, Kadam has come, oh, that's this person, that's this, because there's hardly any joint I haven't been in Lagos.
So you go to all the joints, you tend to want to act like them to get them?
Oh, sometimes when I dress in shorts or jeans.
You take some of this?
No, I don't. I've never drank in my life. I've never smoked either.
Oh,
that's the interesting part of this. But I think it's just a natural thing for me.
To endear them to you so that they can talk to you.
And look, honestly, and I'm serious about this, they're innocent, they're good, but other times come when they need the fix, they can do a few things wrong. And I say to people, a moment of misadventure should not define a man's life.
So true.
We all make mistakes. We need second chances. That's why I can stay there today. I was a rascal. But if God can redeem me and make me what I am today, why not another person? So that is an extension of grace that I have enjoyed to them.
Interesting. So let's talk about the facility. How big is the facility? And do you have volunteers that help you? Because it could really be overwhelming.
It is overwhelming. It is. We have two centers, actually.
Okay.
One is in Abeokuta. That one was donated to us, the Mojisola Balogun Rehabilitation, donated to us by a Nigerian woman.
Oh.
Facilities provided. She gave to us everything, and she signed off the papers.
Wow.
So in that place, we take in undergraduates that are rusticated from their universities. Upon the understanding that if we certify them, they take them back to school and they complete their education, and many have. And we also take in workers, we take in graduates, people with masters, with doctorate, who fell into drug in the office, who can't spend a year. And because that center caters to occasional users, not chronic users, occasional users, experimental users, so we give them 3 months to clean, and then they do very well. The other center is in Ekpe. We're on about 5.1 hectares of land.
Wow, the biggest.
Big, massive. But as massive as it is, we are just beginning to understand that the facilities are not enough to cater to the issues we have. I just told you, we wanted to care about 100 people. We had to interview about 500 people. So you can then begin to imagine. What happens to the 300 and something? They go back to the street.
Well, is there effect? I mean, sometimes you're doing stuff and you're supposed to be seeing the numbers dwindling, or does it keep increasing by the day?
No, you see, it's just like, let me talk now medicine. When you buy a gadget to test for goiter, goiter had been there, massive, endemic, but because there's now a gadget to test for it and you get it, it then says there's an increased number. It's not. The number was latent, but because there was something now to show you the reality of it, it begins to appear as if. Look, one thing that we have been careless about in this country is the issue of substance abuse, and I'm glad that Jeremiah came. UNODC did a survey in 2018 and published the figures. The percentage used in Nigeria prevalence rate is 14.3%. The global average is 5.6. We're almost triple. The same thing in terms of number. And then so if you begin to look at it, and I can show you, that was a microcosm of what the reality is.
So you're saying in the continent we're more?
No,
Nigeria?
Even in the world.
Wow.
Because if the global prevalence use is 5.6%,
okay,
and Nigeria's one is 14.3%, translating to over 14 million people.
A huge problem.
Imagine a 14 million nation. Then you can imagine that means that number of people are in Nigeria using drugs. And that is just because the people you did the survey on. What
you
about
might have
people?
Others.
Absolutely.
So are you calling for more partners? I mean, how can people come in to support what you're doing?
Like yesterday, we need partners. Why do I say so? We need money. To cater for one beneficiary in a month, it costs us about 100,000.
Wow.
Because we clothe them, we feed them, we take them to hospital when there's a need, and they don't pay a dime to come in.
So you can begin to understand when you take about 100 people, you can translate them into numbers. We need improvement in our facilities, in our infrastructure, sports center, staff quarters, and some other things like that. Even
Nomination
addition.
for volunteers and the rest, and then more centers.
Oh yeah, we will be glad if somebody calls us and say, hey, I can give you a center in Abuja or give you one in Port Harcourt, we'll be delighted. But the challenge will then be the maintenance and the sustenance. In terms of personnel. It is not because a man has a degree in psychology.
Doesn't mean?
It doesn't mean that he can cater to an addict. Because it needs a huge dose of empathy.
So training too. The need for training and all of that.
Absolutely. This is
a whole lot of work in your hands.
lot
But
of
you're
work.
doing fantastic, and we
Thank
hope
you.
that drive will continue. So at least we, prune down on the numbers as the day go by. Thank
We
you
hope
very
so.
much, Dr. Adedeji, for all
Thank
you
you
do
very much.
at CADAM. It's been all about CADAM to the rescue, and we've been speaking with Dr. Dokun Adedeji, the DG of CADAM, that has been steering the ship in the last 26 years. Of course, they call for more partners to drive this advocacy, and you can do that by following all of the social media platforms you have on your screen, and even call the phone numbers. This episode, of course, wouldn't have been possible without our program supporters, Fitzin Healthcare, NEM Insurance, Sifax Group, and of course, our collaborating partners, NDLEA and the National Orientation Agency. You're still watching Regardless. Louisa Olani is my name. Until we come your way again next week, stay away from drugs.
Increase the reach of your events or business services. To advertise on Plus TV Africa, please call 0906 000 5719 or 0909 040 8408, or send an email to marketing@plustvafrica.com. Plus TV Africa. Big stories live here.
Good evening. My name is Nyamgul Agaji. This is the news update.
The Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, has warned Peter Obi, the presidential candidate of the Labour Party, against inciting violence over the outcome of the presidential election. Mohammed spoke in Washington, D.C. during his official engagements with some international media organizations on the just concluded 2023 polls. The minister accused Obi of inciting people to violence while seeking redress in court over the outcome of the election. In a recent interview, Dati Baba Ahmed, vice presidential candidate of the Labour Party, had said Bola Tinubu did not meet the constitutional requirements to become Nigeria's president. Meanwhile, presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Peter Obi, has condemned the Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, over alleged incitement on Nigeria's democratic institutions. Mohammed had faulted Peter Obi's post-election tactics of seeking redress in court on the one hand and inciting people to violence on the other hand. Reacting to the allegation, Peter Obi took to his Twitter page and described Mohammed's comments on his personality as a calumny campaign. The Labour Party candidate said he has never encouraged anyone to undermine the Nigeria state and its democratic institutions. The House of Representatives has condemned calls for an interim government in Nigeria after May 29. The lawmakers feared that such calls are capable of truncating the country's young democracy and causing anarchy across the country. This followed a motion of urgent national importance raised by a member, Unyeme Idem, drawing attention of the Green Chamber to the statement issued by the Department of State Services, DSS, warning of plots to install an interim government after the outcome of the presidential election. The House urged the security agencies to be on alert and warned aggrieved parties to wait the outcome of litigations before the court. One lawmaker, Ademorin Kuye, accused former President Olusegun Obasanjo of culpability for calling for cancellation of the results of the presidential election. In other news, bandits abducted no fewer than 10 students of Government Secondary School Awon, a day secondary school in Kacha local government area of Kaduna State on Monday. Kaduna State Commissioner for Ministry of Internal Security and Home Affairs, Samuel Aruwan, confirmed this in a statement on Tuesday. The commissioner said the state government received a preliminary report from security agencies regarding the kidnap of the students. And according to the reports, Aruwan said the exact location of the incident is yet to be ascertained. He said detailed reports were being awaited to clarify whether the incident occurred within the school premises or elsewhere. The Oni of Ife, Oba Niton Adeye Ogunwusi, says traditional rulers need to be assigned constitutional roles in the security and governance architecture of the country, failure of which the country won't effectively tackle emerging and contemporary security challenges confronting the country. The Oni spoke at the 2023 exercise Husky Hiyu lecture series organized by the Armed Forces Command and Staff College Jaji, Kaduna State. Delivering a lecture with the theme, Combating Internal Security Challenges Through Effective Utilization of Traditional Institutions, the guest speaker, Oni, stressed the failure of the security agencies and the government to assign specific constitutional roles to traditional rulers was largely responsible for lingering insecurity in the country. Members of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, in Rivers State continued their protest in Port Harcourt, the state capital, at the office of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, over the inspection of materials used in the last general elections. Today's protest was joined by more State Assembly members, including the Leader of the House, Martin Amaiwule, alongside the Deputy Speaker, Edison Ehie, and Chairman of Ikwere Local Government Area, Samuel Nwanosike. In addition to the demands for joint inspection of electoral demands and issuance of certified true copies of result sheets, the PDP is demanding the arrest of All Progressives Congress APC governorship candidate Toyin Cole for alleged murder.
2019 recall, it was the same Toyin Cole that shed innocent blood in Abonima. We mourn our brothers and sisters. He's not tired. He has come again yesterday and has killed one of us. Must Toyin Cole always be known for killing? No. We go agree? No. That is why from here we are moving straight to the Commissioner of Police. We have registered our petition yesterday. Today, after INEC will sleep in the Commissioner of Police office, Toyin Cole, who does not enjoy immunity, must be arrested and prosecuted. Yes. Not so. That's all. We sleep in Moscow Road. For now, police must arrest him today. Yes. Because we don't know what to tell the family of the dead PDP supporter. The wife and children are crying at the hospital. Why must we continue to fold our hands and allow criminals who stole our money because they are using dogs in arms? Nigerian police must rise on the occasion if they're impartial. We are ready to die for our rights. We are ready to die to defend our mandate. Enough is enough.
Still in Rivers State, the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, in the state requested the cooperation of all political parties seeking the inspection of election materials used in the February 25 and March 18, 2023 polls, saying it will discharge its constitutional and lawful duties without preferences or biases. INEC Resident Electoral Commissioner in the state, Johnson Sinikiam, in a statement said about 50 applicants were received for inspection of election materials. For days now, members of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, and the All Progressives Congress, APC, have clashed at the INEC office in the state over the inspection of election materials. However, the INEC commissioner in the state said although the application of certified true copies of documents and access for inspection of election materials are the legitimate entitlement of candidates and parties to election petitions, these are, however, governed by processes and procedures which include payment of requisite fees, making copies or photocopies of relevant documents, and certification by the authorized official of the Commission. A U.S.-based medical doctor and his company, Adaokwe Renaissance Network Africa is the name of the company, are suing the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, and the federal government over alleged failure to recognize them as the originators of the e-voting system used during the elections. The suit was filed before the Abuja Federal High Court on March 21. In the suit, plaintiffs are praying the court for an order directing the defendants to pay 77 billion naira as compensation and another 500 million as damages for allegedly using their idea without credits. Obekwe said he flew to Nigeria to meet with Atahiru Jega, former INEC chairman, and they discussed his proposal. They also want the court to direct the federal government to publicly recognize and acknowledge the plaintiffs and their team who were involved in the preparation and design of the i-voting proposal to first defendants since 2010. We'll move now to other parts of Africa, where Tunisian President Kais Saied appeared in a video posted on Monday on his official Facebook page, dismissing reports over his health, following almost 2 weeks with no public engagement. The North African country's main opposition coalition had pressed the government earlier to explain Said's public absence, saying it had information that he was sick. Said, 65, had not appeared in public or held any meetings since March 22, according to posts on Facebook, the presidency's only official channel of communication. The lack of statements or videos has sparked rumors over the state of Said's health. In his video, Said accused unnamed people of trying to create crisis by talking of power vacuum. Said, who staged a dramatic power grab in July 2021 and has since ruled by decree, last year rammed through a constitution giving his office unlimited powers and neutralizing parliament. Since February, security forces have arrested over 20 figures, including top members of the opposition. Outside Africa, U.S. Secretary of State and NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg have congratulated Finnish Foreign Minister Pekka Haavisto and his country after it was officially welcomed into the North Atlantic Treaty. Finland and Sweden asked to join NATO last year in response to Russia's invasion of Ukraine, a process that requires the approval of all existing NATO members. Turkey is still holding off approving the membership bid of Finland's neighbor Sweden, which Ankara says has not gone far enough in cracking down on people Turkey considers terrorists. The three countries signed a pact on the issue last year.
I can actually then hand over to you, Minister Haavisto, the formal invitation on behalf of all allies for the Republic of Finland to accede to the North Atlantic Treaty. So please.
Thank you.
And then at the same time, I can also invite you to deposit your documents of accession to the U.S. government, here represented by Secretary Blinken.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary General. Thank you, Secretary Blinken. Now when I've got this invitation, it's my great pleasure to deposit with the Secretary of State of the United States of America, Finland's instrument of accession to the North Atlantic Treaty. Please, Secretary Blinken.
Thank you very much. Well, with receipt of this instrument of accession, we can now declare that Finland is the 31st member of the North Atlantic Treaty.
TikTok has been fined 12.7 million euros by TikTok has been fined 12.7 million pounds by the UK's data watchdog for failing to protect the privacy of children. The video sharing site used the data of children aged under 13 without parental consent, according to an investigation by the Information Commissioner's Office, ICO. It estimated TikTok allowed up to 1.4 million UK children of this age to use the platform in 2020. TikTok said it had invested heavily to stop under 13s accessing the site. Despite TikTok's rules requiring children under 13 to have parental consent to use the platform, the ICO said many were able to set up accounts without this. In business news, the Nigerian National Petroleum Company NNPC Limited spokesman Garbadin Mohammed in a statement says the company knew nothing about the payment of the sum of 20 billion naira to ghost consultants as alleged by an online platform. The NNPC Limited wishes to state that as a response or a responsible corporate organization, it does not have or deal with ghost consultants. He informs that NNPC Limited process of engaging consultants whenever the need arises is clear and verifiable and follows global best practices. On the Ogun State government claiming a back duty tax liability of about 18 billion naira against the NNPC subsidiary, the Petroleum Products Marketing Company PPMC Limited, the company says for clarity, PPMC had objected and challenged the claim through its tax consultant. Consequently, the Ogun State government took the matter to court, which is not unusual in business circles. And we'll move from business to entertainment now, where Nigerian singer Demani Ogulu, also known as Burna Boy, has met several international celebrities, but it seems it hasn't stopped him from getting starstruck. Recently, a video of Burna Boy completely losing his cool in the presence of music icon Usher Raymond surfaced on social media. Report states that Usher came to pay respects to the Nigerian singer, and he almost couldn't believe what was happening. The video captured Burna Boy moving restlessly and almost ripping his chain apart as Usher watched him in excitement. And finally, sports. Tottenham Hotspur are reported to be linked with Brendan Rodgers, who was sacked by Leicester City on Sunday. Spurs are still without a manager since the sacking of Antonio Conte during the international break, with Christian Stellini taking charge on the interim. The North Londoners have struggled to get an offshore managerial option due to sporting director Pablo Paratici travel ban. They are now forced to search for more options locally, and Rodgers appears a top candidate alongside ex-Bayern coach Julian Nagelsmann, according to Goal. And that's the news update. For more stories, please follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and do subscribe to our YouTube channel at Plus TV Africa and Plus TV Africa Lifestyle. You can also view us from Limex on limex.tv and Glow TV apps anywhere in the world. My name is Nyamgul Agaji. Many thanks for being there.
For upcoming artists to blow in Nigeria.
Welcome to Plus Trending. I am Buki November, your host, saying thank you for joining us on today's episode.
Welcome back. It's tea time on Plus TV Africa.
Practice makes perfect. I'm not perfect yet, but I'm a lot better than I used to be.
He's a king. He's entitled to marry 100 if he wants to.
It is engagement we need to have.
Those who suffer miscarriages are never taken into account.
Members of the National Assembly are also influence peddlers.
You are sitting on Nigerians' money.
From the barbing, I pay my rent. From the barbing, I send my children to school.
A consultative engagement.
No any tangible notification before they ban us.
It's one thing for people to be at your back and the heat of the moment, and another thing for them to still be with you when push comes to shove.
What we do not understand, we will stigmatize.
What you can see is the remaining of the tanker that exploded.
The suspect equally confessed.
Now 500 naira they collect them. If you no talk, then go beat you. Now 2,500 they pay.